Hello, everyone, and welcome to December 23rd, kind of the Thursday evening of the end of the year, right smack dab between the winter solstice and Christmas for those who celebrate. But tonight we are celebrating another semi-finals matchup here for the Aegis Esports League. My name is Boulevard. Joining me is LOR Director Hirsch. Do I have to go with the full title every time, or is Hirsch good? Are we on that level yet?
You can call me Hirsch. Hirsch is fine too.
Excellent, excellent. And how you doing tonight, Hirsch? Because we have a bit of a banger matchup ahead of us.
I am fantastic tonight. As you can tell, I'm on vacation. I'm not in my normal setup. Today I'm
with the producer himself, a Wookiee monster in the background too. So it's gonna be a good night. We're in good company tonight, Boulevard.
Absolutely, we are. We've got a good matchup ahead of us. I believe it is ABG Targon going up against the Puffcap Peddlers. And we're going to be taking a look at the deck list in a little bit here. But for our first match of the night, we are going to have Real Prism Sword up against Pokeberry 34. So the ABG Targon, kind of an APAC team, as you had mentioned. Pokeberry, the first player of the night, actually a top 4 competitor from the Forces from Beyond seasonal tournament that happened what feels like forever ago at this point, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Been a while that we have been stuck in the Darkened Saga. We're almost out of it. And Hirsch, I don't know about you. I don't think I have any idea what the next expansion of Legends of Runeterra holds for us thematic-wise.
Well, so far, if they're keeping true to the leak that was brought to us, we're getting Karthus, Olaf, and hopefully Poro King. And if Poro King comes out, my dream of having aggro Poros come to life would be amazing.
Do we know the like the theme of it though? Like we got out of like the World Walkers and like, yeah, there's new Runeterra champions, and then we got like all the Darkened stuff. Like is there a theme to this one, or are we just kind of like free balling it from here on out?
I think we're kind of just free balling it from here on out, because like they haven't really teased anything for like any themes so far, but I don't know like what thing we could go with all 3 of those champions coming out.
I have no idea. Maybe we'll just start. I mean, we're still a month away from that. I don't expect any advertising for at least another 3.5 weeks. And maybe then, once they've spoiled half the cards for the next set, then we'll get an idea of what the theme is. But for now, we are still smack dab in the middle of the Darken expansion, and as such, we are going to be seeing a lot of Aatrox tonight. I don't know about you, Hirsch. It feels like the meta is pretty solved. Now, Aegis does shake things up a little bit because you can only run 2 of the same champion across your 3-man lineup. But for the most part, it's just a lot of Aatrox, Seraphine X lineups, with the most popular X deck kind of being Red Gwen.
Yeah, that's what I've been seeing a lot, especially with last week. Like, pretty much everybody was bringing Aatrox, Seraphine, everything, variations, whatever. A lot of people were doing spicy one-ups, like Victor in the Ezreal Seraphine decks. They're doing they're doing either Aatrox Keen or Aatrox Vayne or Vayne Quinn, sometimes without Quinn too. There's just so many variations tonight.
But you know what we're not seeing? We're not seeing the new Shadow Isle Aatrox variation. I was kind of hoping that one would get broken out. Like, it's a cool variation. Unfortunately, it really doesn't do much for your lineup, just because, like, freeing up Vayne doesn't really have a good third deck to throw in there alongside your Seraphine and your Shadow Isle Aatrox. I know at the Mastering Runeterra tournament last weekend, Drissoth broke out a rather old special in the Kindred Ash as sort of that third deck coming in and beating the Aatrox, but we will have no such luck with anything along those lines tonight. Instead, getting some unique decks, some one-trick decks we might not have expected out of these players.
Yeah, for sure. But like with the Kindred or the Shadow Isles Aatrox deck, I think people that aren't really caught onto it yet. Like, it's still kind of under the table a little bit. Like, no one's really understanding yet. But I put a lot of time on that deck so far after I found out about it, and found that it's actually really good into the Aatrox mirrors.
I put about 2 games on it and then went, this is still an Aatrox deck. I don't really want to do this right now, and put it down for a bit. But I am a little surprised that it hasn't really caught on Mess yet. It's kind of like a well-known secret at this point, I guess is the best way to put it, where, if you know, you know, and it's not that hard to know. It's on Runeterra AR. What Am I has been streaming it. He's near the top of the ladder with it, but I don't know if we're ready to go ahead and get into the decks here, but I do want to take a look at one of the spicier one-ups that we're going to have from the evening, and that is the Talia Malphite coming out of Pokeberry 34.
So the Talia Malphite deck is one of the decks that is basically going to be good into pretty much all of mid-range. We saw Roji completely stomp in the losers bracket of Worlds and still make it out with Talia Malphite. It's basically his lineup that I believe it's card for card that he's created. he's basically made it well known that, like I said, it's good into pretty much a lot of mid-range decks. It's just slam big units, go face, stun the entire board. It's like, what are you gonna do about it? There's not much you don't have a whole lot of answers to it besides removing it off the board.
Yeah, you can call it as cheesy as you want, but at the end of the day, Malphite comes down. He is a 7-11 with tough, and that is not something you're going to be able to handle very easily. Now, this isn't exactly card for card the list that Roji ran, because one thing that is actually famously missing here is the Rock Bear Shepherd.
Oh, I didn't even notice that at all.
Instead, we've gone for Herald of the Magus, actually, which Roji did not run, so... You know, for going a little bit extra Rock Bear generation in terms of... I guess it's fair to call this a little bit of a greedier list.
Yeah, for sure. But moving on to the next deck, we have Prism Sword, Zoe, Aphelios, Victor. If you want to give some highlight on that.
Yeah, this is not a surprise out of Prism Sword. Prism has a seasonal top 8 or a seasonal, not top 8, but top 32 under his belt, and he did it with Invoke, and it was like Glorious Evolution Victor Invoke, and this wasn't that long ago. I'm not talking about, like, you know, this wasn't Call of the Mountain, this wasn't forever ago. It was a couple of seasonals ago. I don't remember the one exactly off the top of my head, but it was this year. It was this season. So to see him come back out with the Targon Victor, very unsurprising to me. This is definitely sort of a comfort build for this player. And, you know, the Pursuit of Perfection list is something that we've seen pop up quite a bit. It's a great addition to a lineup because it doesn't actually require the Seraphine, though you can slot her in here if that is what you want to do. But at the end of the day, it's just another back alley bar deck that is sort of the star of the show. One of those was sort of it's been a really interesting discussion point as of late in competitive Runeterra, where back alley bar is one of the highlight cards that is not a champion that you can build around in a couple of different region combinations and sort of have these homogenized strategies over 2 or potentially even 3 decks within your lineup.
Yeah, for sure. Just being able to get back alley bar, just reducing everything, you're able to flip Zoe a lot faster just by getting the reduced cost, getting more unique cards out there, and just being able to run Pursuit of Perfection as well. I believe we're running Pursuit of Perfection.
There's 2 of them in there. It's hard to find in the spell list because it's so chopped and screwed, but yeah, Pursuit's in there.
Yeah, so just being able to get Pursuit on the board fast is just basically the way to win throughout this deck.
You know, I'm looking at some of these one-ofs. I'm not, if I'm being honest with myself, I'm not in love with a few of them. I think like the Mountain Goat and the Clump of Wumps is a little bit awkward. I know a lot of people have kind of cut down on Clump of Wumps in every variation of the back alley bar decks. I understand that, you know, it does feed into the Pursuit a little bit faster because you do get that Mushroom Cloud. You know, just a card that generates a card. That's really what you're looking for if you're looking to facilitate the Pursuit while staying low to the ground on the back alley bar. But I'm really looking for Defective Swap Bot, man. I've been saying it for, it feels like months at this point. Put Defective Swap Bot in your Piltover and Zon back alley bar deck. It's a cool card. It's got some great use cases, and if you find yourself up against a Talia Malphite, you know, they don't really have a fast speed interaction to kill the swap bot while you take those Malphite stats. So just something for everybody at home to think about.
Yeah, a lot of things that I've been seeing people do with like this version of the back alley bar deck with Clump of Wumps is either run Clump of Wumps or run Chump Wumps. More expensive a unit, but it does the same thing.
I don't know how I feel about Chump Wump. I was playing the Rising Tide Gauntlet today, and like I was playing Chump Wump because I put him in my Karma Ezreal deck because I was like, yeah, we used to run Chump Wump. They're on nerf. They're a 4/4 again. Let's put them back in there. And like it felt okay. I'm not sure if I love it in a list like this. You know, I do like having a hardier body. I will say that much. There's not too many things that are really killing units at 4 health these days. Obviously, Red of the Arcane is a big one, and we do see that in Pokeberry's lineup, so maybe it'll come up a little bit later on. But yeah, just staying closer to the ground. I feel like a 2/2 really isn't trading onto too much, especially when we look at, you know, the Aatrox matchup.
Yeah, for sure. And moving on into the ban phase, we have, once again, Pokeberry taking on real Prism Sword. We have Pokeberry running Heimer Jace, Ezreal, Seraphine Victor, and Talia Malphite, as we discussed earlier. And on the other side, we have Aphelios, Zoe, Victor, which we also discussed. The Aatrox, Quinn, Vayne, which everybody will be seeing a lot of tonight. But the one spicy lineup that spicy choice that I see on Prism Sword's side is the Ezreal Heimerdinger Seraphine.
I am currently looking to see if Victor was just doubled up elsewhere in the lineup, and no, this is actually real Prism Sword. I guess just really wanted the Victor in the Aphelios deck, and rather than going for the triple Ezreal, decided to put in. I'm opening the deck list now, but I'm assuming a single copy of Heimerdinger. Yeah, it's just a single copy of Heimerdinger, which I'm not I'm not mad at it, right? Going wide on board is a way to get around the back alley bar decks and sort of out tempo them. So yeah, maybe if Heimer comes down, you don't really care about a specific cost of turret getting online. You just care about gumming up your board against these low evasion decks.
Yeah, we're not even like, this deck is supposed to be countering Aatrox decks, and with that we need 6 cost spells. I mean, with back alley bar, if we do reduce the cost of Sputtering Song Spinner to 6, we're trying to get as many elusives on the board. I think if as a second win con without Ezreal, just to try to sneak in lethal here, but we don't have enough to really generate 6 cost spells just to be able to generate the elusive unit here.
Yeah, only 1/6 cost in the main, and then like you mentioned, only 1/7 cost if we are going to Song Spinner down. I mean, obviously you've got the Piltover Telestones, but there's only one of those, and sometimes we'll even see 2 in these lists to get that Transmogulator for another 6 cost. So really not something that I guess is on Prism's radar. It is interesting. Like, I did not think we were going to have Heimerdinger in both players' lineups, but I am very curious about this Heimer Jace from Pokeberry. It's a deck that I tried pseudo recently because I was a big fan of the deck before the release of the Aatrox expansion, the World Ender. So I was like, hey, this deck kind of fell off. It didn't really have the popularity that I felt like it maybe should have, even in the qualifier stage. So let's revisit it. And yeah, it felt okay. You probably are running more Hexbliterators than you were before. But, if you are just running a deck with like 3 Vengeance and 2 or even 3 copies of Hexbliterator, you're killing many, many significant threats, and that might be why we see Real Prism Sword take it off the table here and play into the more known factors.
Yeah, like we've said multiple times before in the past, Heimer Jace is just a staple of a deck. You're gonna see it. We're gonna be seeing it around for a long time. It's been around for like what, 5 seasons now, right?
That sounds about right. I think it popped up right before we actually got into the 2022 World season. Magic Misadventure, I believe, was the first time we saw it pop up.
Yeah, so it's been around for a while. Like I said, it's just it's still a solid deck. Like you said, you were running a lot more 6 costs or Hexbliterators, and probably our max amount of vengeances just to be able to take care of the board as well. But
all right, I looked it up. It was Curious Journey. So at the very first seasonal of this sort of season was when Heimer Jace sort of stepped into the spotlight. That was back when people were still running Jace Lux, which is a deck that I have not seen pretty much since Heimer Jace came out.
We're just now waiting for the players to get into the game. They're just now starting their ban phase, so we should be getting in momentarily.
Excellent. What are we... look, I was going to ask what you want to see for the opening matchup here, but I think you're probably just going to be of the same mindset I am, which is do not give me a Seraphine Mirror.
Absolutely. Getting a Seraphine Mirrors, they go either way. Maybe the one of Heimerdinger will give Prismal Sword a little bit of edge here. But
we'll see. I mean, either way, we're going to get a bar mirror unless Talia Malphite gets 2-0'd, which... I mean, it's not impossible, but it does really kind of just come down to what does Pokeberry feel like fielding first. I feel like this is not what you were looking for in a lineup as the Talia Malphite player. In fact, I would venture to say I'm a little surprised to see the Aatrox ban here.
I'm honestly surprised about that too, because like I feel like Malphite Talia would do pretty well into Aatrox Quindan. It being a mid-range board-based deck, it's like basically what Malphite Talia wants to go up against.
Yeah, and I think if you were Grandpa Roji, then your Talia Malphite, you could make an argument as favored into these back alley bar decks. But without Rock Bear Shepherd, you slow down a lot here. You don't have that pressure. These bars are gonna get online.
Yeah, for sure. But maybe we're gonna see Malphite Talia first. I honestly think maybe we can sneak in a win through the Ezreal Seraphine deck. I don't know how we're gonna do well into the Aphelios Victor Zoe deck though.
Yeah, it definitely feels like it's Prism Sword favored here in the opening match of the evening. But we do have a lot of action to play through. This is not the only match that we're going to be seeing. Both players have to sort of Iron Man it out against the other teams. So we might be playing a best of 3, we might be playing a best of 5. Well, sorry, not a best of 3, but we might only get 3 matches. We might get 5 matches. Only time will tell. But for now, we're going to get into the opening game here. Real Prism Sword from Team PCP that's not a great team name. Up against ABG Targon's Pokeberry 34.
So in the opening hand, we do see a bar drop. Or we see a bar in the opening hand of AGT Pokeberries.
No, we've got the Aphelios plus Duskbringer in the opener for Prism Sword. 2 bars, in fact.
Yeah.
And ultimately, a really slow hand from Pokeberry, but we do have the Aftershock. But is that something you feel like you can afford to use on Aphelios, or are you saving Aftershock for the bar in this mirror?
Oh, we're going to need to strap in Boulevard, because actually it is the Seraphine mirror straight off the bat, too.
No, there's no Seraphine in Prism's deck. It's a bar mirror, but it's not a Seraphine mirror.
Oh, right. I forgot. He's not running Seraphine. He's running Victor instead of Seraphine. Yeah,
not much better. You know, when we say Seraphine, we kind of colloquially just mean back alley bar. Like, please don't give me a back alley bar mirror. And it is actually going to be a thermogenic beam to take out the Aphelios, so we do still have access to that Aftershock a little bit down the line for Pokeberry. Prism has the Aftershock as well, but 2 bars does mean one of these is going to stick, and Prism only on the 1 Piltover Telstone.
We see Prism Sword just discard the weapon straight away. Like, Pokeberry was... It's absolutely massive that Pokeberry was able to prank the weapon right off the bat, but we're going to be able to cycle through to another weapon. So that 4-cost weapon really is not going to mean a thing to Prism Sword right now.
No, unfortunately, Aphelios taken out, though. And actually, I misspoke. For whatever reason, and this does confuse me a little bit, Prism Sword is running 2 Piltover Telstones in this list, but only 1 in the Seraphine list. I feel like you kind of know how you feel about that card, and that is the number of copies that you run in all of your sort of singleton decks, but not for Prism Sword.
You see the Mystic Shot off of Prism Sword. It's going to be a lot of back and forth here with each team's like... Not much going to be coming out of Pokeberry for the next few turns until we are able to draw a unit. We're going to see a bar come down on 6 without any hesitation, I think.
Yeah, and Prism Sword really not going to have any pressure to put on before that. Even though, like, I almost would have rather seen some development out of Prism Sword here. You know, just pressuring down your opponent, especially understanding that you are about to go into the back alley bar turn, and you yourself do not currently have a copy.
Do we ever take Battle Bonds here just to try to... Like, we know that Pokeberry doesn't have any units to develop. Do we just take the Battle Bonds here to be able to get a board-based beatdown here? Because we do have 2...
Maybe. It's definitely not Celestial Wonder. I could see Deep Med, you know, dig a little bit harder, but with so many singleton spells, the chances of actually hitting your Pursuit or whatever you want, not great. I really don't hate Battle Bonds when we are sitting on 2 Daring Poro, but it is just going to be the Deep Meditation, which I believe will actually reduce itself down to 0 once Flow is active.
Yeah, it should, I think. I actually never noticed how that interaction works. We see the Pokestick come out with a Yordle Squire on the top deck. We're going to be able to develop somewhat on the little board to keep us alive for the oncoming turns here.
Here comes the first of many back alley bars of the evening, Hirsch.
Yep.
Making a Furious Wielder.
Oh, you hate to see that. It's just a dead card.
I love to see it. I don't want this castable nonsense. I want this match to be over. Speedrun it. Speedrun it. I believe it was last weekend, I was watching Hearthstone Worlds because obviously I just gotten back from LOR Worlds. I wanted to see like another card game world championship, kind of like compare my casting to theirs. I don't know what happened to Hearthstone since I stopped playing, but there were multiple like 40+ minute mirror matches that just went to fatigue. And just sort of listening to how those casters handled it, I was like, okay, yeah, they do pretty much the exact same thing we do in like Seraphine mirrors, where we just completely derail it.
Fair enough. It's just a lot of waiting on the mirrors here. We see the second back alley bar come down with Ambitious Vox. That's Ambitious Vox, right?
No, that is Cadrigan the Infernal.
Right. Ambitious Vox is 6.
Yeah, Cadrigan. I don't know much about Cadrigan the character, but I do know that they are fighting Shyvana on Shyvana's level 2 side in the base art, so I'd like to see a little bit more out of Cadrigan in the future. Maybe one of our next Runeterra exclusive champions, Yeah, if anyone from Riot's listening, that's a freebie. Put Kadrigan in the game. Give Dragons another chance.
Maybe we see Trinket Trade come out with getting Bandle Tellstones. Bandle Tellstones is going to be good to be able to flip this Ezreal faster. But we're seeing Shield come out on the back alley bar in order to get a decent trade out. Spell Thief coming out. Trinket Trade and Pokestake. We're probably going to take the Trinket Trade here, I assume. No, we're going to take the Pokestake.
Yeah, just getting a blocker off the board. And that's going to be a level 2 Victor for Prism. It's you know, it's like half a bar. Yeah, here we see about half the hand of Prism is reduced. We do still have the 0 mana Deep Meditation.
I think we honestly just Deep Med now, right? There's no reason to hold it.
I can't think of a reason to hold it. We can get a Spacey Sketcher here as well.
We're discarding the Puff Cap, getting Moonsilver, the Messenger, and Moonglow. I imagine we're just going to take the Moonglow here just to slap that on the Victor, so we have less keywords to be able to roll.
It's kind of a question just because it does seem very easy for Pokeberry to sort of inconsequentially pop the Spell Shield. You know, there are Poke Sticks in here. There are some other random things. We're going to go for a prank real quick and find both Kadrigan the Infernal and Fan Club President. I imagine you got to take it off the Fan Club President. If Pokeberry ever spends 8 mana to throw down Kadrigan, I imagine Prism's going to be pretty happy with that. So
yeah.
Now we get the full swing here, holding back the Victor.
That's really odd holding back the Victor here. I guess, actually, no, with the Bandle City Tellstones, we still have enough mana for the buff on Bandle City Tellstones? I believe it's 2 mana right now.
Yeah, Heroic Intervention should only be 2 mana, so understanding that it could be coming. Now we find a Thermo Beam and a Sunburst. Not awful pickups for Prism, and a Messenger into Zoe. All the Pokies are gone. You know, maybe Zoe can actually stick around long enough to get a little bit of value. Probably not full level up value, but maybe a Star Chart or even 2.
It's a little too late in the game right now for Zoe to really be doing a whole lot. We see the Hexsplitter come out to this Victor. There's not really much
saving this.
Yeah.
You know, I gotta ask Hirsch, how do you feel about the one of Zoe?
The one of Zoe is nice just to get a little bit of a value engine. It's very difficult to flip Zoe at times, especially if you're in this mirror too. You don't have a whole lot of protection for Zoe. So it's going to be very difficult to flip, but if you're able to get that flip out, it's really nice, and you're really in a comfortable spot with whatever you roll from then on. But it's not necessary to the deck. It's just to get you through the early game, I believe.
I hate it, personally. I think it's awful. I never want to see it again. I've never seen it. I obviously, like, I haven't played too many One of Zoes myself, but I've cast... not like a lot of One of Zoe decks, but I'd say a fair amount at this point, and I have yet to see this champion really do anything, even if they find it in the early game. I think Aphelios is so powerful. Absolutely. Or hell, put an Ace Soul in there. You know, throw Aurelion Soul in, why not? Not enough people play Aurelion Soul and things these days.
I think the only people that play it are still the dragon people. What? Can we not have casted the second upgrade? Is it only once per
I don't
turn?
think so. I think it's tied to each specific Victor, similar to the Tom Kench spell.
Oh, true. So we're seeing...
Okay, Fury, not a bad pickup.
Yeah. Especially that early spell shield as well, too.
Still, though, so many units on the side of Pokeberry. It's incredible the defensive capabilities of these Bandle City Seraphine lists. Just sticking around, trading onto some of these weaker units that Prism is also outputting, because he is also effectively a Seraphine deck. And now we're going to see double Mystic Shot onto the Victor rather than the single Sunburst.
Do we just... No, we're going to save this. Baroque Shield going to put it just out of range by 1. But we still have some...
I don't know if Prism can really afford to commit any more to this either.
I don't think we can. I think we just honestly let it slide unless this Victor... If this Victor hits Quick Attack, I can pretty much just... You can justify taking this off the board, but if it rolls Spell Shield or anything else, I think you're pretty fine. With it rolling Overwhelm, still might be able to justify that a little bit. We're gonna get the Fury
Overwhelm is a little scary. You really want to make this. I mean, it's kind of confusing, right? Because the Seraphine Ezreal combo will kill you from 20, but you definitely don't want to make it any easier on them than it already is, and that's actually a really nice rip for Pokeberry there.
Yeah, for sure. Going to be able to draw 2 off of here. Pathways. What are we looking for here?
Seraphine, just sort of full stop trying to find that Seraphine. She's got to be leveled at this point. We've got the Ezreal already in hand. Even if Ezreal's not leveled, we've got the capabilities to do it once Seraphine is down, as we've already got the high note in hand. So really just looking for that second champion, and yeah, it is going to be the Sunborg Fiends committed onto the Victor to finally take out this champion. I don't see anything in Pokeberry's hand to save this anymore.
I think we're pretty much close to... We should be at the point by now that we have Pursuit of Perfection activated. If not, very close. So coming up in the next...
Maybe 1 or 2 cards off at this point, but I agree. I think Pursuit should be active.
I think we'll be... Oh, we're going to see the Victor get taken off the board here. No way to save it.
It's all up to Pursuit, and there's actually a lot of answers in Pokeberry's hand for this Pursuit, especially since Prism has used both Mystic Shot and the Sumpwork Fumes. We see Seraphine now grabbed off Pokeberry, but not only is there, you know, the Signpost in order to delay the spell or make them recast it, there's the stun, but if all else fails, we have the Hextech Transmogulator because... Prism Sword never found a back alley bar of their own. We never had to use the Aftershock, and you can just turn this 30-30 into a 2-2.
And we're ripping the Pursuit of Perfection right off the bat now. This has to get signposted now, right?
It could get signposted and recast. It kind of depends on if Pokeberry wants to just make Prism commit the mana for it. Gonna get Timelinder, though, and it looks like just gonna focus on getting down the Ezreal.
I'm still iffy on Signpost here. Can Signpost can't bounce units back. It only bounces spells and destroys weapons, right?
Yes.
Okay. So we're
I guess Pokeberry just a little more concerned with getting this Ezreal online and getting the combo available. And now we're going to signpost the removal spell so that Ezreal gets to go into combat here. That's a draw from Pokeberry. Conchologist already been played this game, so no additional damage coming through. And a full swing here. And again, just so safe from that Pursuit of Perfection as long as that randomly generated concussive palm is in the hand of Pokeberry. I was thinking of the name of Tail of the Dragon, and I was like, oh, that's not the spell's name.
I imagine we're just going to rip Sunburst on open next turn. Just to be able to clear this Ezreal off the board.
Might die in response, though.
Do we have... Let's see, we get 1 off of Piltover Telstones. We could... Drawing here's not going to do much for us. We're going to rip the Concussive Palm here, just to get the block out. No response from Prism Sword here. We're now safe to drop the
it's Pokeberry's yeah, it's Pokeberry's priority sequence because the combat just ended. Now we've got another spell in hand, and this should just be lethal, Hirsch.
Do we have enough to get that? We have 2? Yeah. Oh, we do. We do. Yeah, this is lethal. Pokeberry takes game 1.
Okay, or Pokeberry doesn't want lethal.
Wait, why didn't we just rip Piltover and Telstones? What? We had the win.
I have no earthly idea.
I am so confused.
Okay, Pokeberry, you're drawing some cards.
I mean,
you found another Conchologist.
We do just win off of open. We see the Shock Blast come out. Divine Judgment, Sky's Descend. Nothing to really save us here. We just need to push at least a couple more damage. We've Quicken. Definitely going to see the Encore. The Encore should get us there. If we just...
Is Pokeberry just going for the style points and the mental damage of transmogulating one of their own units into the Pursuit of Perfection?
Maybe.
That is literally the only thing I can think of, because it was guaranteed lethal if you transmogulate your opponent's unit. That would have been 2 damage from the Ezreal, plus 1 from the actual Telstone itself. But Pokeberry actually going to top deck another Ezreal.
And that's going to seal the deal here.
No answer from Prism, no hope. Pokeberry's attack token. You know that they've got spells in hand. I'm going to go for, I guess, a progress day, just see what's on top of the deck. But no, it's just going to be a surrender out of Prism.
Now, going on to the next game here, we're going to see Malphite Taliyah. What do we see on the side of Prism Swords here? Do we see the run back with the Aphelios Victor Zoe deck, or do we see the Ezreal Seraphine Heimerdinger come out to try to deal with this Malphite?
Personally, I always just run back whatever deck I was playing. I don't really think it matters too much. You've got to win with both of them anyway, and sometimes you like to get your brain into a different headspace and switch strategies, but with both of these being back alley bar decks, I don't think there's enough of a jump there for it to have any impact on the mental.
Yeah. I'm just waiting for them to get into game 2 right now. And we see Taliyah chip Saltspire and Sunburst off of Pokeberry's hand. A little bit.
This might be the first time I haven't seen Chip turn into a 3/3 by turn 3.
We might get there still. Yeah, we're gonna get there.
Okay, yep, there it is. Okay. I was gonna say, Roji is really good about getting 3/3 chips online very early.
Yeah.
We're gonna get a Mountain Goat to eat one of these Roiling Sands, and finally we get a back alley bar in the hand of Prism Sword. And I don't believe I saw any Desert Naturalist in this list from Pokeberry.
Is that true?
Yeah, no copies of Desert Naturalist. In fact, no landmark removal whatsoever. So those bars are going to stick and do the full damage.
So we're seeing a little bit of a decent hand to get us through the early game here. Try to mitigate this damage as much as possible right now. Pretty much the name of the game for Prism Sword here is just to try to stall out the game as long as possible, just to get this Pursuit of Perfection down. I think once we get this Pursuit of Perfection down, even Malphite's not going to be able to deal with it that well.
No, but if Malphite does come down, Prism might be in a little bit of trouble. Hexbliterator, not a bad card, but not something that's going to deal with an entire mountain. It can kill Taliyah, though, which is the actual threat that Pokeberry currently has available. No Rite of Negation to deal with the Pursuit, but we're still quite a ways away from actually getting this card online. But this here, Hirsch, turn 5, this is the pivotal turn. This is right before the back alley bar comes down. This is Pokeberry's big turn to try and surmount as much pressure as possible going into that weak turn 6.
We're going to see the Unraveling Sands come out, seeing the Rock Hopper come out too. I imagine we're just going to drop that down just to get the 4th landmark to be able to get Taliyah flipped as fast as possible here.
Oh, and just playing the Aphelios into the Roiling Sands. Prism has no fear, no regard for the life of the Moon Boy.
That's really dangerous in my opinion. I think we need to value this Aphelios right now. He's going to be our engine just to carry us through to be able to get to that late game.
And now Malphite available for Pokeberry as well. Things might actually be stacking up against Prism Sword here. We do get Herald of the Magus. That is something that you could Hextech Obliterate, but I think you really want to save that for Taliyah. Although it doesn't kill Taliyah anymore. +2/+2 and Overwhelm onto the Champions of Pokeberry, so you would have to combine it with a Mystic Shot. So Prism has a choice to make here. Do you develop the back alley bar, or do you fight for the life of your Aphelios?
I think we just Sunhawk here, honestly, just to keep this Aphelios alive. But no, we're just going to go slam down this Barkeep now. Aphelios is going to get lost.
If Prism had really wanted to, they actually had an option to Gem and Crescendum to cycle into a second weapon, and at the very least have Aphelios trade with the Herald of the Magus while it went in, and still get down back alley bar that turn. But we're all in on the bar. There's a second bar in hand. We've got the Pursuit of Perfection. It looks like we're just freeing up a little bit of hand space here before we go into bar number 2. But first, it's going to be Lunari Duskbringer because she's already 0 mana.
Did we just roll Von Kip off of a bar?
That we did. How flavorful.
Do we run enough 1-cost units that this is going to generate enough value for us here? We have the Sunhawk that's going to get value off of that, but what else do we have that can generate value?
I don't think we're going to, just because once the second bar comes down, you need 3 cost units to actually count. And yeah, now I think Aphelios is really the only thing that's going to get buffed up by Yip, and we're already down one of those.
Rolling Teeny Dactyl's actually not bad here. I think we're going to be able to see a little bit of value come out of that card as well. Especially if we're able to get it down after it transforms.
Prism could actually push a fair amount of damage here, depending on how aggressive they want to go. If they want to start even overwriting bars, potentially. We do have that Arena Battlecaster in hand, but we're just going to full swing. Kind of a weak swing here, especially into the development from Pokeberry.
We're pushing at least 5 here.
That said, though, I mean, I don't think Pokeberry is killing Prism on the next turn. Although I'm actually not super confident in that, given that we still have mana for Talia, potentially into a Malphite, both of whom, I will remind you, have +2/+2 and Overwhelm already available thanks to the Herald.
I imagine that if we just see the Talia come down, dropping, we're going to Hex Obliterate it next turn. We're going to see the 2 mana gems come out now with Prisms, or with Pokeberry's next turn. It's going to be a big turn here. We can drop Malphite straight out the bat right now. With a little extra mana to spare, we see the Hex Obliterator and the Mystic Shot swiftly come out here to get this Talia off the board.
Yeah, and this is going to leave it so that Prism still has that Solari Sunhawk to deal with the Malphite if it comes down. Feeling very safe here. And I think that Prism is getting really close to that Pursuit of Perfection being online. Maybe 13 out of cards at the absolute minimum have been played, and we're going to get a few more next turn. We can just kind of cycle through and overwrite a few units as long as we're not taking that Malphite damage. So, okay, Pokeberry going to start off with the Rock Hopper, and Prism takes the pass. Okay, keeps the Sunhawk up for the Malphite. You love to see it. And Pokeberry, I think Prism's got the read that you've got the Malphite. You're not fooling anyone with this weak play.
Yeah, the discipline on Prism Sword, just throwing that open pass out, saying, literally saying, I know you have the Malphite in your hand. Just drop it already, man. I got the answer.
And even if Prism let the Malphite come down, really not the end of the world. You know, you'd only be you're not taking lethal damage, but now we're outside the range of the Malphite, and you immediately see Prism Sword fire off a copy of the President. See how greedy Prism is. Okay, does go for the Deep Med, not taking the Frostbite spell.
That's gonna at least get us closer to the pursuit flip here, but. Was it the right move to take Deep Med and be a little bit greedy, or do we want that answer for when Malphite comes out later on?
It's sort of hard to assess without knowing exactly how close we are to the Pursuit of Perfection. Like, if we're only a couple of spells off, then I think the Deep Med is fine because we are looking for lethal on the following turn, although Prism would have to clear up one of their own board spaces in order to make that happen.
We see the Teeny Dactyl come out. It's going to be able to flip. Oh wait, no, it will flip if we just shoot Nexus.
If we Mystic Shot right face.
Are we gonna turn ourselves into a burn deck here?
It looks like we might be losing the Teeny Dactyl. Oh no, actually there's no mana for the Right of the Arcane on the side of Pokeberry.
Taking out as many blockers as possible. We're gonna push at least 3, 6, 7 damage here.
Prism, I really want to see you overwrite one of these bars with the Arena Battlecaster. Perfect.
I don't think there's an answer in Pokeberry's deck that's going to be able to stop this. We just straight up open now, and we're going to Game 3, Boulevard.
And this is kind of what we expected, Hirsch, right? We figured that Talia Malphite was not going to handle 2 back alley bar matchups super well, especially given the lack of Rock Bear Shepherd. That new card from the World Ender expansion just does a lot of work in these slower matchups, getting a lot of 5/5s on board very early and really pressuring down your opponent. So without that card, I do think that Prism is heavily favored in this matchup because the Talia Malphite is such a liability into these bar decks. And guess what? You lost to one, but there's still another one waiting in the wings, and this is the scary one.
I think if we were going to be able to pull out a win with these decks, I think that was the lineup that we were going to be able to get that win out of. But it's going to be a lot harder on the side of Pokeberry now. It's going to require Prism Sword to break his hand, honestly. But we see that Prism Sword's in a decent spot with Rolling Conchologist and Fan Club President right off the bat.
Yeah, this is not what I would call a brick hand, and we even get the opportunity to pokey stick chip first action here on turn 2 before the Preservarium can come down. Turn that into an actual aggressive option. And once Pokeberry throws down the next chip, you know, we've got a blocker in the Conchologist.
Oh man, it's not looking too hot for for Pokeberry right now. Dropping down the Conchologist, counterfeit copies, Encore here. I think we're just gonna take the Encore, honestly.
Yeah, I don't think you ever take counterfeit copies in a list like this, and honestly, Discreet Invitation, some weaker options, especially given the mid-range styled matchup that you find yourself into. So yeah, Encore, not a bad pickup here.
See the other Preservarium drop, and picking up another chip. It's going to be able to keep us able to develop our board a little bit more here. Pretty much the name of the game here is just to try to push as much early damage as possible. That way, just dropping Malphite, being able to drop Malphite as soon as possible, it's going to feel a lot better and put Prism Sword in more of a corner here.
This is a pretty quick pick on the Cloaker from Prism. I'm curious to see if they're about to fire it off on this Conchologist to just draw one card, but no, it is just going to be a trade with Chip.
I think we're honestly saving this for the Seraphine Boulevard.
Oh, man.
The Seraphine's about to be able to, we're about to have both of our champions elusive value generating. We see the
and the bar on 5, open attack from Pokeberry. Such a weak play going into the bar turn down to 16. That's so healthy for Prism Sword.
Concerted Strike, go get it. Honestly, probably we're looking at Concerted Strike, in my opinion, maybe.
I actually don't think you can really kill anything with Concerted Strike in this deck. You kind of cap out at like 4 or 5 damage on that spell.
Wait, go get it can target champions too, right?
Yes.
It's not just followers?
It is both. There was a lot of cheeky plays back in the day with like getting the champion spell back to your hand for 0 mana, doing some crazy stuff, and now we're going to see it go down to 1 even. And honestly, Prism could combo this with the Barkeep for an insane amount of value, but not now as the hand is too full and the Barkeep is actually just dying immediately here. Although, you know, maybe you quicken this. Or we do just, you know, commit the go get it straight away.
We're not able to drop it on Kurt. Wait, it's still going to generate value. We're just going to overdraw here.
Actually, I think the first one will prevent you from getting the 0 mana copy to your hand. No, okay, that does go off first.
And we're still going to overdraw here. Ranger Knight Defector not going to be able to generate its value here because we don't run any weapons. But we still have...
No, although this might be Aftershock onto the Salt Spire.
That honestly might be the move here, yeah. And that's what Prism Sword's exactly going to do here. We want to try to control this board as much as possible here. We want to prevent Pokeberry from going as white as possible.
But here comes the Malphite turn.
Are we just going to see the Malphite get ripped straight out? Or are we going to see Stonebreaker? Nope, we're going to see the Malphite come down with the flip.
How are you going to... I guess... Okay, yeah, I was about to have some harsh words for Pokeberry about being someone who plays Talia Malphite and not having the Malphite skin, but honestly, as we had mentioned earlier, ABG Targon is an APAC team. They do have to play on America's accounts, so not a lot of use in spending money on your Smurf.
Very true. We still are holding up enough mana for Unstoppable Force. Honestly, this is a big turn for Pokeberry. There's not a ton of answers here.
I don't think it's going to be lethal, though. I believe between Quicken and Hex Obliterator, we always survive. We might take 11, but we will survive.
We're definitely taking a ton of damage here. You're seeing Loaded Vessel come out onto this chip here. Or Boom Ship, I'm sorry, not Loaded Vessel.
Yeah, it's going to generate a keg and draw a card. Next round or something? I don't remember when this card draws a card.
It's just like one of those.
Or does it never draw a card?
I don't think it does. I think it only does damage based off of how many or how much you spawn the amount of kegs you get based off of how much damage it does. I think that's what it does.
Which means that there is a similar Bilgewater spell that draws cards that I now have to look up because it's gonna bug me if I don't find it.
I think it might be Loaded Vessel that I'm thinking of. But we're on the side of Prism Sword here. We have a fully stunned board. We're taking 11, or no, 13, 15, 16, 17. We see
okay.
the Ranger Knight Defector drop down. It's going to block this Malphite here, I would assume, just to try to preserve as much health as possible.
Oh, I actually kind of like taking the Stonebreaker out just because you're only taking 1 additional damage, but you're actually getting a unit off board, whereas here, you're not even setting up the Malphite into Hexbliterator range, right? He's only going down to 8 health.
I think we're just saving we're saving that just to be able to Hexbliterator the Stone Crashers next turn.
All right, so here's where we found ourselves, Hirsch. Boom Ship is what you were talking about. Deal 1 to a unit, summon powder kegs equal to the amount of damage dealt. Loaded Vessel is the same art as Boom Ship, except it is the ship from Boom Ship exploding, and that is deal 2 to a unit, draw 1 next round, start for each damage dealt.
See, that's why it's so confusing and hard to basically.
It's the same boat.
Yeah.
All right, we're getting our draw off here. But the Quicksand gonna be able to stop this in its tracks.
And it's
Malphite
not
deciding
hot.
which one to block is gonna be the Ezreal. No answer to this. We could quicken the Ezreal, but how much does it really matter? The Malphite unstoppable force is still going to be an issue next turn. I think Prism might be falling here.
I don't think there's anything in Prism's deck that can basically save us now and stop this Malphite. As much as we were saying, this is an unfavored matchup, and even though Prism Sword had a very good hand to deal with, he just wasn't able to flip that Ezreal as fast as possible like he was supposed to. And it's looking like it's actually going to go to Pokeberry now.
Even if Prism was able to find something, I think this Absolver return in Pokeberry's hand does just secure it no matter what Prism generates off of this Trinket trade.
Yeah.
Gonna take out a few units. We're gonna think we can survive once the Mystic Shot comes down. But this Absolver return is just going to do it for Pokeberry. Team ABG Targon picking up match number 1 here.
And like I was telling you earlier, honestly, ABG Targon is proving out to be they started out a little rough early on in the season, being in the group of death. Going, I think their final score was like 5-4, 6-4 or something, but like they were in a really rough group, and they were looking like the team that you didn't think that was actually going to make it out of groups, and here they are proving it to everybody that they're honestly the better ABG team right now.
Oh, hold on, Flash of Brilliance might be able to get something. I'm not sure what, but
it's not going to be enough.
No, it's not. Fast speed, slow speed, obliterate, and heal doesn't matter. We see the GG Shen from Pokeberry. Prism still lining up some cards, but is going to be moving out of the way and letting his teammates come in to try to finish out the series. So you did it, Prism. You killed everything that isn't... Actually, you didn't even kill everything that isn't Malphite, but you made an effort. Not quite enough. The bar is just a little bit too slow. The Malphite just a little bit too strong.
Wow, I just like you said earlier, just seeing Pokeberry be able to pick up that win in a very unfavored matchup, it's actually really surprising, and it's just I'm at a loss for words, honestly, right now. I'm so shocked that he was able to get that win through that deck.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes the Malphite does come down on the unstoppable force. You know, just is what its namesake is, right? It is an unstoppable force. You're never gonna like one-shot your opponent, but getting them onto that 2-turn clock. We saw Prism just have a really weak turn after they took all of that damage. No development of an Ezreal Seraphine combo. The Quicksand, of course, was a huge blowout as well, because if we were able to get a Mystic Shot and a draw off of that, we probably still would have died to the Absolver Malphite combo, but maybe we would have had a chance to develop a Seraphine Ezreal combo and maybe fight back for a lethal while it's all on the stack, but it's just not the case. And now we're moving on to either Tank Buster or Prodigy.
On the side of Puffcat Peddlers, who is the ideal to send in? I think honestly, maybe Prodigy might be the move here. He has a good way of being able to control a board and be able to get a decent lead out of it.
Yeah, we've got... So Tank is also running Pursuit, but that's Aphelios Seraphine, so actually doubling up on the bar into one deck of the lineup there. Red Gwen left for both players. I know Prodigy during the World Championship was saying that, you know, he was a big Red Gwen proponent for a very long time, but he felt like it was not the move for the World Championship. So now back on it again, maybe backtracking on that statement a little bit, or feeling like the Aegis semifinals meta not exactly the same as the World's top 16 meta, and saying, yeah, you know, I'm comfortable bringing Red Gwen back now, or maybe was just proven wrong by the success of the deck at the World Championship. Either way, we are going to throw it to a very short break before we get into our next round of decks here at the Aegis Esports League. we are back in the semifinals. ABG Targon up against Puffcat Peddlers. Prism Sword falling in match number 1 up against Pokeberry number 34. And it is going to be Prodigy, just another P name. Today is just the day of P names, Hirsch. I was about to call you Persh. And we are going to see Prodigy coming in with a lineup of Fiora Leone Champion Strength, Plunder, and Red Gwen.
I do have to say I have been victim of Prodigy's Fiora Leone deck on ladder. I ran into it I think yesterday, just one game, and he just dumpstered me. He wasn't even able to get out Champion Strength. He had the whole board base control on it, and I was not able to deal with it. So out of a Demacia deck, it is a solid deck, and it does counter. I think it should counter Aatrox decks as well. But it will be able to deal with a lot of the Seraphine Azrael decks that we're going to be seeing.
Yeah, unfortunately, no Aatrox in Pokeberry's lineup if that's a matchup that you're looking for. But there is the Seraphine deck, like you mentioned. And it is going to be this Fiora Leone deck that we're going to take a little bit of a closer look at. So, obviously, for the World Championship, Champion Strength was a huge pressure point amongst the players. We saw What Am I even run 3 decks with 3 copies, but since then it has been hotfixed, nerfed down to 5 mana. There's a graphical error there that you see it at 8 mana, as it is on most websites, unable to keep up with the hotfixes, but it is a full 9 mana, and as such, we don't really see it as a build-around card anymore. Some people will still play the Jinx version specifically, but that's really the only dedicated Champion Strength deck you're going to get. Instead, we like to see it in these more mid-ranged focus decks, like this Leona Fiora, where it is a little bit more of just a supplemental victory. Yeah, you know, I've got the full board, this is my finisher spell, but I can kind of grind you out with these units if I don't find the Champion Strength. We're not just seeing the Poro Cannon junk anymore.
Yeah, this, in my opinion, is the way Champion Strength should be played. I think just being able to cheat it out earlier is just, in my opinion, it doesn't feel that great of a victory. It's like, yeah, you're able to get it out on turn 5. You did it. It's just it doesn't feel as satisfying as being able to play out a very decent sized game and just be able to get Champion Strength out and say, you know what, I played this fair. This is how I won. I won fair and square.
Yeah, when I got back from Worlds, you know, I took to the ladder pretty much immediately. It was actually the day before the hotfix, and I lost to Champion Strength 3 times during my climb. Every time it was with my opponent having the attack token on 5. If I had gotten even not just a delay of a turn, but just 1 or 2 more priority sequences, I could have cleared out, you know, 1 or maybe even 2 or 3 more units in response to the Champion Strength. Just need, you know, get down a Katarina, get a Blade's Edge from my hand, anything like that. So I think at 9 mana, a much more fair card. I think you're right that it is a lot more fair to play it this way, where it is not the build around, it is simply an inclusion.
Absolutely. And moving on into the matchup, once again, it's Prodigy versus Pokeberry. We have Prodigy bringing Fiora Leone, Plunder, and Red Gwen as well. Honestly, like as I said before we went into the break, this is probably the lineup that Pokeberry should be scared of.
And I doubt we're going to see a repeat ban onto the Jaceheimer. I think that is actually, in this case, the deck that Prodigy is most likely looking to pick on. That Talia Malphite actually looks like a bit of a problem for the Leona Fiora and potentially even the Plunder deck. So now I'm not saying that means we're going to ban it, but I would definitely be more surprised to see Jaceheimer banned than Talia Malphite. Although Seraphine is still an option, but Jaceheimer is banned again.
And we're seeing the Plunder ban, which is honestly probably the scarier deck to put up against Talia Malphite, which is honestly a very logical ban on the side of Pokeberry here. But like this, maybe we can beat Talia Malphite with Champion Strength. Maybe.
So I took a look at the Heimer Jace because I'm like, okay, there's no universe where you're banning this deck unless they're playing like 2 copies of Ruination. I open up the deck list, sure enough, staring me right in the face, 2 copies of Ruination. Because this is a very mid-range lineup on the side of Prodigy, and in control matchups, you're usually looking to win with Red Gwen with Harrowing. So if it was just 1 Ruination, then, you know, maybe Prodigy's a little bit of a coward, and they are terrified of that one of in multiple matchups. But with 2 copies of it in the deck, I do think this is actually a bit more of a respectable ban.
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, what deck do you think we're going to see on the side of Pokeberry first? I think, honestly, maybe this is actually the time that we're going to rip this Talia Malphite out, just try to get this win secured, because Talia Malphite should be fine into Red Gwen. I'm not 100% sure on the numbers here. I feel like it should be favored in that matchup. It might, like I said, it might struggle into Fiora Leona here for a bit.
I think we're going to see Red Gwen up against Talia Malphite first. I'm not sure that I'm comfortable saying that Talia Malphite is like favored into Red Gwen. Red Gwen, I think, has more potential for sort of awkward hands. This isn't really a matchup where you're getting any quietus value, especially since Pokeberry has chosen to omit the Rock Bear Shepherds. But, you know, the Fallen Reckoner does do a lot of work in matchups like this. The more mid-rangey, go tall ones. And I don't know that, you know, Prodigy's really going to care too much about the Roiling Sands. She's going to continue to throw down all of these units into those. And there's not a lot of removal for the Katarina.
But, like, shouldn't we be able to trade evenly throughout the Red Gwen matchup? Like, once...
You can trade evenly, but then sort of that favors the Red Gwen deck, in my opinion, because, one, the Fallen Reckoner is going to replace itself. Two, you're just going to keep getting Hallowed stacks so that the eventual hit that does connect is that much more impactful. But also, there's 3 copies of Eternal Dancers in the deck for Prodigy, which is actually a very difficult card for the Talia Malphite to deal with. And of course, the Harrowing, there is the option for the Rite of Negation to come through. But if it doesn't, Harrowing will likely just end the game in this matchup.
No, we're just waiting on these players to get into game into game right now. They should be getting into game in the next few seconds here. But
Speak of the devil.
Oh, yep, right
straight into it, and we were half right.
It is the Red Gwen matchup, but it's going to be the Ezreal Seraphine matchup.
Oh, that's not what you want to see on the side of Prodigy. This is a much slower hand than you were hoping for.
We have time to still draw into it, but like we said, it is a little bit slower.
And it's slower than it even looks on the surface, because you do not want to just be sort of dry jamming Ruined Reckoners on 4 without sort of a combo unit to pair it with. And Phantom Butler is not your ideal Ruined Reckoner target, but Prodigy might have to do it anyways. He just continues to draw the more expensive half of the deck.
Yeah. Oh, another Fallen Reckoner!
Man.
This is not looking too hot.
Here's what I want to know, Hirsch. Place your bets, everybody. Pokeberry sweep, yes, no. Over, under.
I don't know. I think even though Prodigy's hand right now is not looking too hot right now, I think he'll still be able to pull it back. If not, I think Tank will be honestly still set up for the reverse sweep. Tank does have a very solid lineup into pretty much all 3 of them. But
we don't even see the Midnight Raid used here.
Man. We got the Gwen to basically be able to do a lot more for us right now. We're going to see the Fallen Reckoner come out now.
This is sort of Prodigy's big, where he hits his strides, right? Now that we can slam back-to-back Fallen Reckoners and take away a lot of the defensive capabilities from Pokeberry, actually almost might have been better for Prodigy if they had the attack token on evens here so that you could go in with double Fallen Reckoner.
Yeah.
But still a lot of spells to be played from Pokeberry.
No, what's giving us the benefit here is that Pokeberry still hasn't drawn the Ezreal. If we're unable to draw this Ezreal here, honestly, Prodigy could still sneak out the win here.
No damage taken this turn, but, I mean, with this hand, like, the Harrowing is such a house. You're going to have so many Reckoners in the death pool by the time this actually comes out. As long as Prodigy doesn't die before, I would say, turn 9, I think Prodigy is winning on turn 9 with the Harrowing.
We see the Eternal Dancers come out. It's going to pull another... I think we're just going to hit the... Yeah, we're just going to hit the Ruined Reckoner here, but Eternal Dancers is going to be able to pull another Fallen Reckoner out of the pool right now, because Fallen Reckoner is a higher cost, so it does have priority over Ruined Reckoner right now.
Yeah, this is going to be really rough for Pokeberry to come back through. While it was a very slow hand for Prodigy, once we hit that mid-game stride, things are looking so good here, although now it looks like we're actually putting ourselves in a position to lose our Eternal Dancers to this Aftershock or get excited.
Prodigy, we have to take the 4. You have to.
I I'm actually a little concerned for Prodigy because if you take the 4 here, Seraphine can double the Get Excited onto your Nexus. And we're getting to a point where a Mystic Shot might be lethal.
Oh, this is true.
If you... I mean, you could just block the Otterpuss, right? Sure, it can't block, but it does keep you outside of Get Excited Mystic Shot range.
But just taking off that Otterpuss, with it being can't block, I don't think there's really a whole lot of value into blocking it right now. I think we're just going to see the Fallen Reckoner come out now.
I feel like this has to be followed up by a Gwen. I think Prodigy,
it has
at 10, you're not that safe, especially knowing that there is, I believe this is a main deck Get Excited. That is something that you kind of need to be aware about while that bar is in play.
We're seeing the Sputtering Songster come out. Careful Preparation, Sunbless Vigor. Not any cards that you really want to see right now. Hopefully we can hit something else. Starbone, Confront. Once again, nothing really that's going to deal with another Careful Preparations and a Transfusion. None of these are really going to do a whole lot for us, Boulevard.
I mean, the Careful Preps aren't bad to chuck away some of the other dead cards that we got and maybe get some good main deck cards to our hand.
Confront going to be thrown on to the Barkeep right now. I don't know. We don't have a whole lot of mana right now. Do we just rip the Get Excited right now? Just to be able to stop this Fallen Reckoner from dealing so much damage to our board?
I mean, I feel like you would Aftershock, if anything, if you're going to go after the Reckoner right now. If you're going to Get Excited, then you might as well wait until it's in combat. Actually, I guess it doesn't really matter because Pokeberry is sort of forced to put the Hallowed stack onto the Eternal Dancers so that they can get another Fallen Reckoner. But instead, we're going to continue to cycle through a few different cards here. Gonna level up the Seraphine, and now Aftershock actually could take out the Dancer.
Yeah, that's actually so much better for us because we're going to be able to block with Seraphine now, but is that going to be enough? We're still going to be taking a ton of damage here. Mark of Mark of the Isles, I forgot about that!
Yeah, this is why you play that card, to dodge removal. And now Pokeberry might actually just be dead. We'll see what we can find off the Careful Prep, and it is a whole lot of nothing that you can do for 0 mana.
Is this lethal here? This is.
Yeah,
oh, man.
22 coming through.
Even with the bricked hand early on, Prodigy still able to find lethal here and take the win.
Yeah, all that really mattered was getting sort of to a point where you can throw down multiple Reckoners, get the Eternal Dancers down, and we highlighted it in the deck selection. The triple Eternal Dancer from Prodigy is something that's a lot harder for these Bandle City decks to deal with. They're pretty light on removal. They can take out 3 health units, no problem, but once you double that, things get a little bit tougher, especially as there are still things left over on the board for you. And yeah, it was a little bit slower, but gets the job done before the Seraphine Ezreal is online, and it looks like the Pokeberry reverse sweep not going to be coming through today. There's still a little bit more games to be played as we head into game number 2 here, but Prodigy starting things off strong with that Red Gwen victory.
Yeah, I think running this deck back into the Fiora Leona, it's going to be really tough because this is another. It's a Demacia deck. It's just going to be board. It's just going to be entirely board based here, and Pokeberry is not going to have a whole lot to be able to deal with these beefy units here.
Now, once those Fiora and Leona come down, it's just way too much health. Ooh, and even getting the Aegis in the early game, that's going to... Tough is such a good and pivotal keyword against these Seraphine decks, Hirsch. They really stack up multiple spells to deal with bigger threats, so the fact that you reduce the effectiveness of those kinds of plays just works miracles.
Yeah, and it's just going to basically turn all their one-ping spells like Group Shot, or... Group Shot does 1, right? Group Shot does 1.
Yeah.
If you have multiple units, it does 3. Right?
If you have 4 units, it deals 2.
Close enough. But
yeah,
with these one pings, this deck runs a lot. It's going to basically render them useless.
And if Pokeberry tries to go 4 wide to increase the power of the Group Shot, it opens himself up to the potential of Prodigy actually getting off a Fiora victory.
You see Contrala just come out. Do we take the Camo Cloaker again? No, we opt to take the Time Trick this time. We want to be able to find our champion, or we want to be able to find Seraphine or Ezreal. We need more answers here right now. Because honestly, we don't have enough.
No, and the PCP Prodigy is going so hard right now, pushing 6 damage into the Nexus. We see a Conchologist block, but Prodigy has a command and control in the game, and next turn, we might even be able to get down Fiora with the tough keyword and really start to just pick apart the chump blockers of Pokeberry and make it so that it is a liability for them to play too many of them.
No, we are holding on to Signpost. Signpost will remove the weapon, and do we ever just rip Signpost just to take this weapon off? It's not really that worth it, right?
It's kind of awkward to signpost something like Champion Strength because in this matchup specifically, I think it's going to be coming down late enough where even if you bounce it, Prodigy can likely just cast it again on the next turn.
Yeah, for sure. See the Leona drop, it's going to be stunning. Oh, and with that fast Hexbliterator to answer this, the stun's still going to go off here.
Yeah, and with the challenge from Fiora, I imagine there's going to be 4 damage pushed into the Nexus, 1 kill on the Fiora. She's going to be down to 2 HP, but that is still just too much for Pokeberry to handle. And this is the kind of pressure that you need to have on board going into these back alley bar turns. Make your opponent really get punished for spending the time to develop that.
With the back alley bar, not going to generate us anything to really deal with this board still.
No, that is... Oh, man, I got to look that one up. But it is... it's like a 6-mana landmark. It makes like an 8/7 with Overwhelm and Spell Shield or something on like Countdown 3.
Must be one of the newer ones. We see Trinket Trade come out too fast for me to actually see what we picked. We just picked we picked the Otterpuss here. Just to be able to develop a board to be able to survive here.
All right, so yeah, the name of this landmark is Risen Altar. It's Countdown 3, or when you destroy me, summon this 7/6 Overwhelm Spell Shield. Hirsch, would you like to take a guess as to the name of this 7/6 unit?
I cannot guess.
Damien the Unbound.
Jeez. Say that 5 times fast.
I'll give you $1 if you can spell Damien.
D-A-M-Y-I-A-N?
D-A-M-I''YIN.
I was close. I was actually close.
You were close. You were close.
But
now we got Seraphine online for Pokeberry, but not much to do with it. She's not leveled. They're still tough on the Fiora. There's really not much to... Yeah, still nothing to stop this Fiora. We see... Actually, I guess High Note plus Group Shot would do it at this point.
While we were talking, we also saw Champion Strength ripped out by Prodigy just with a fast Signpost just to get that back off the board. Because if that was able to go through, that just spells the end for Pokeberry here.
Yeah, and I'd mentioned that earlier, you know, maybe we were at a point where if you Signpost, Prodigy can just rip off the Champion Strength again on the following turn. Is going to be 1 mana shy in this case.
But now we're actually in a position to where Prodigy, the table has been actually flipped on Prodigy here now. We lost a lot of our board here.
I don't know what Pokeberry can actually do in response here. I mean, the 2 draws from the Pokestick is going to change a lot.
We need to find this Ezreal here. We're just cycling through the bar just to be able to find, give us more value here.
Okay, Time Trick has already been played, so that's not going to be doubled up.
Ooh,
Why
and we hit the
Conservatory? Oh, but there's nothing to save a Seraphine from a Sunburst. Oh, but a Rummage in response is just as good.
We definitely ripped the... we discarded Waking Sands and what else? I missed it.
The Risen Altar.
What
that altar was never going to get played.
We don't want to see Damien? Or Diamond? Or whatever his name is? I'm sorry.
Damien.
Yes, thank you. Caustic Rift and Conchologist still no Ezreal, but we do have the second Seraphine in hand. The Quiet is coming
This
out.
Conservatory probably pops as soon as you play it.
This actually is huge value for Pokeberry right now. It's gonna do wonders for Ezreal.
Oh, and Pale Cascade, are you kidding me? Just 1 more draw spell for Pokeberry?
And we're gonna see the board dwindle down even more here, Boulevard.
And very quietly off to the side, Dark Bulb Acolyte has climbed to 16 attack thanks to Augment.
Jeez. Wow, this game took a huge turn right now. Prodigy was in such a comfortable spot, and he just, in just 1 to 2 turns, all that was just taken away. And we draw the second
Hirsch, we
signpost.
suck at predicting who's going to win based on opening hands.
Probably.
Oh, and I was one off. I was one off on the conservatory auto popping.
Do we just... Yeah, we do bounce this. We have to.
6 mana for the signpost, but it is going to protect Seraphine. No mana left for Prodigy. The GG fired off from Pokeberry saying, hey, I have lethal next turn on the open. Here comes Victor to secure things, and another Victor level up. You know, I'm back to saying maybe Pokeberry does just sweep.
It's still on the table because we still have Malphite Talia into Leona Fiora still. Maybe...
Yeah, which...
We should be able to control the board a little bit more with Prodigy, but it's going to be difficult. Champion Strength is going to be a deciding factor in this game.
Yeah, as is Malphite and Malphite's Unstoppable Force. It really depends on how aggressive the hand can start off for Pokeberry. And again, I have to highlight the lack of Rock Bear Shepherd. I think that's a card that, you know, getting down an early 5/5 really helps in a matchup like this, but I mean, there's no landmark removal from Prodigy, so these Salt Spires that we really haven't seen get much value so far this day got a little bit of an opportunity.
Oh, and it's already starting to look so good on the side of Pokeberry with his opening hand here. But I'm not gonna dig myself a hole here because we are 0 for 3, 0 for 4 now.
I am. Give me a shovel. Things looking pretty good for Pokeberry here on the opener.
But we're gonna see the chip now become a 3/3 to be able to trade into this Twilight Protector. I imagine we just take the Talia there with how many landmarks we have set up right now.
Yeah, Saltspire into Talia would be very difficult for Prodigy to come back from, and as we had mentioned before, and we'll probably mention a few more times over the course of this matchup, no landmark removal for Prodigy, and Rite of Negation is a very safe pickup to prevent that Champion Strength swing turn later down the road.
I have a feeling that he took an... Oh, he did. Okay, I was wrong. I thought he was gonna go completely balls to the wall there and just take Endless Devout.
No, give me back my shovel, Hirsch. Only I can dig myself into holes here.
No, you gotta share it.
No, Mom said it's my turn with the shovel.
But we see the Darkened Aegis thrown onto the Fiora, getting this Fiora stacked early. One thing to note, we are drawing we are summoning another Clockling, so this Fiora is going to be able to stack a little bit more here.
This is actually starting to look really concerning for Pokeberry, just because not only did you summon another Clockling, but you know there's a Concerted Strike as well as a Riposte available for Prodigy. This, even if it doesn't turn into Fiora win condition, it might be enough to force out the Rite of Negation and open up a possible Champion Strength down the line.
We have to see the Leona drop here, right?
I don't think there's a great secondary option. It is going to be the Leona. But this is still going to be... so it's going to be, what, 198 and 155 coming out of these Salt Spires? I believe that's how this is going to function.
1799.
Oh, 99, yeah. I keep forgetting they're 5/5s, not 5/4s.
And
but only when you buff them.
Hitting the second Leona here. I honestly think we just straight up open pull this Clockling here. We want to be able to trade into this. We have Concerted Strike here available to us to be able to get one more proc on this. It's looking like it might be
so if Pokeberry taps below Rite of Negation, Prodigy wins with single combat into Talia and Concerted Strike onto the 5/5 Rock Bear.
We just take this open pass here, I think. Actually, we can't... It's really hard to tell here. It's like either we open pass or we just develop the Sun Priest, right?
Yeah. And if Prodigy does go for the pass and Pokeberry throws down... I guess at what point do you actually go for the Fiora win? The answer might be there's... it's possible that Prodigy is going to wait for Pokeberry to tap down to 2 because Quicksand could also... you know, sort of have Prodigy just awkwardly kill his own Fiora on a single combat, which is not what you want to be doing, which means if Prodigy passes and Pokeberry plays Salt Spire, that should be a green light, but any other play, and Prodigy's probably going to hold it back.
Yeah, for sure. Prodigy's still debating on what he wants to do.
I mean, the problem is if you do just pass here instead of developing the Solari Priestess, what are you blocking next turn?
We're opting to take the Solari Priestess line here. Meteor Shower and the Traveler here. Going for the Meteor Shower, that's not a bad pick here. It does get the 9/9 Rock Bear down to 4? Why am I blanking on easy math? Yes, it gets it down to 4. Which makes it easier for the Fiora to kill.
I think you don't know how much damage Meteor Shower does.
Does it not do? Am I just stupid? Was it 4 or was it 5?
It's 4 and 1.
Oh my god, I'm just blind today. This is why I wear glasses and they don't even help Boulevard. Give me that.
We've
shovel
got
back.
Riposte available to save this. Yeah, we're gonna just prevent all the damage from the Road to the Arcane.
Which also means that we're going to have to look for another win con here just to be able to protect this Fiora. Oh, drawing the second concerted strike here is going to do a ton for us right now.
Oh, but there's Right and Absolver return on Pokeberry's side. And with Prodigy lining up the Fiora to try to survive and you know, play more towards his win condition, can Pokeberry sneak through a lethal here?
Try to leave a dent. I will protect you.
I don't think he can. Throwing Overwhelm on Talia is not going to push enough damage. We might be able to... I don't think it's enough.
No, I don't think it's enough either. I'm even looking at, like, not necessarily Overwhelm on Talia, but, like, Overwhelm onto the 9/9 getting blocked by a 2/2. And yeah, I actually think I like going for the Absolver play here because you threaten the life of the Fiora with the first half and then just push a bunch of damage with the second half.
So we play Concerted. It's going to get hit by Rite of Negation here. We have the single combat. That's not going to do a whole lot for us. It's still going to kill our Fiora here. It's looking like Pokeberry's actually going to come out ahead on this trade here.
Oh, and we see Pokeberry actually hang back the second half of the Absolver and say, yeah, go ahead. I want to see you Concerted onto the Rockhopper. Really valuing keeping this Fiora around.
We can save the... This is really risky here. I think the math checks out that if we concerted the Priestess into the Rockhopper, or not concerted, single combat into the Rockhopper, I think we're still living?
Yeah, it would only be 16 damage coming through. Oh, and actually going to make it so that you force the single from the Leona. And Prodigy's going to go for it, but... So the Fiora is protected, but how are you winning the game with Fiora at this point? It's got to be really hyper-focused on that Clockling that is coming out for Pokeberry, followed up by a Concerted Strike onto the Talia or something. And honestly, given the hand state of Pokeberry, it is currently slated to work.
See another chip, and we see a Riposte come out from Prodigy.
Oh, man. You know...
I don't think... Can we draw another Rite of Negation here?
Oh, it's just Talia that's going to be the Fiora win from Prodigy.
Prodigy takes down Pokeberry in what was... This matchup went both ways, Boulevard. Like, both sides were pulling ahead, and Prodigy just was able to just pull farther ahead and take the win here. I think this is...
I mean, I called it for Pokeberry a little bit earlier. Now I'm stuck down in my hole, and I'm probably just going to continue to dig myself deeper and deeper as the set goes on. I don't mind. I'll climb out eventually. It'll be fine. You know, I'm doing the finals next week. I'll be out by then. But for tonight, yeah, I'm just going to keep going deeper and deeper because Talia Malphite is not a matchup where you expect a Fiora win condition.
Yeah, I think, honestly, that's the first time we've seen a Fiora win con on stream.
It's the first time I've seen a Fiora win con since she was rebuffed. You know, even when, like, Fiora Pantheon came back out, you really just were not seeing Fiora win conditions. She was just a solid 4/4 challenger, and it really felt like people couldn't wait to get her out of the deck. Every now and then, Like, you build a deck, you put 2 champions in it, and you're like, okay, like, there will eventually be a better version of this deck. This one champion, it's, like, fine for now, but something better will come along. And that was Vayne, which is why we haven't seen much Fiora.
So I'm going to keep going with my prediction streak here, because apparently I'm good at predicting which team's going to send in the next player. I think the next player for ABG Targon has to be ZN, because he has the lineup to be able to deal with pretty much all of Prodigy's lineup here.
Okay, so you're really good at predicting the next player they're going to send in. I'm really good at predicting who's going to win the game by naming the opposite player as the winner. So once you've got that, it's like one of us always tells the truth, one of us always tells lies. That's the kind of riddle that you're dealing with here tonight for the Aegis Esports League. But we're going to throw it to a very short break and then come back with match number 3 of this best of 5. This one will not be a decider. There is much more Legends of Runeterra to be played. back in a flash. It's me, Boulevard, with a great shovel as I continue to dig myself holes tonight. And we've got Hirsch on the other side, who, again, correctly predicted the next player that is going to be sent in. It is going to be Zessin. Now, if you haven't heard of Zessin before, they were actually tied with Kicker A in seasonal points going into this year's World Championship. And I'm sure, look, if you're watching Aegis Esports, I have to assume that you watch the World Championship, in which case you are aware of who Kicker A is. So that's the kind of level that we're talking about here. We're going to be taking a look at one of Zessin's decks. It's one that you've seen before with a slight twist. Hirsch, take it away on the J4 inclusion in this Vayne Aatrox.
So the Vayne Aatrox J4, opting to take out the Quinn. I imagine, I have not seen this deck at all on ladder. I don't think anyone has even... Why am I about to say thunk? I don't think anyone has thought of this deck or this idea to throw in J4. I imagine the reason that we're doing this is to be able to drop it. Hopefully we get odds to or odd tokens. We drop Aatrox on 6 tokens, or turn 7. We just completely rip the open. Hopefully opponent drops their Aatrox and it's unleveled. We rip the J4 out at burst speed. It pulls the Aatrox. Opponent will have to burn a lot just to be able to keep that Aatrox alive and going, but it's a free trade into that Aatrox as well.
It does feel very mirror-centric, right? Like, Jarvan's really not doing an insane amount into, like, the Seraphine matchups or some number of third decks that we're seeing in the meta, but definitely in the Aatrox mirror, which unfortunately we are not going to find in this matchup against Prodigy, because they are the one player on their team not bringing the Aatrox. But, you know, if Prodigy does fall here, you've got the Aatrox mirror in the Tank Busters lineup. But, you know, it does feel a lot better in the mirror than the Quinn. But do you think in this lineup specifically to what Prodigy has brought, is this J4 better than Quinn?
Honestly, it still will be okay. Especially into Fiora Leona, it's still going to trade evenly into both Fiora and Leona to basically get them off the board as well. Like I said, it's gonna force Prodigy to commit a ton just to be able to keep those champions alive. But other than that, I think honestly it's still going to be very well. It's still at the end of the day an Aatrox deck as well. But another spicy one up that I didn't get a chance to, or didn't really point out, was we're also running one of Brightsteel Protector. That's not a card you typically see in a lot of the Aatrox decks here.
No, and I am a little surprised to see a copy of Ranger Knight Defector as the cut for said Brightsteel Protector, which is very surprising to me because I was thinking that this J4 was always going to be leveled, right? The Vayne units are so sticky that usually they're just going to get chump blocked in combat at least one time, doubled up on blocks or a blocker and a removal spell. And that just means Jarvan is pretty much always going to come down as a 7/5 making cataclysms. But with less Ranger Knight Defectors, that feels like it's not going to be the case. And I feel like there's a lot of pings in this meta. I don't know how much I value the Brightsteel Protector.
It's definitely interesting. Like I said, I think it's more tech to the Aatrox mirrors just to be able to trade evenly and keep up with tempo. But into any of these matchups here, I don't think it's really going to do a whole lot or generate a ton of value. But what do we expect to ban on both sides here, Boulevard? Let's see if we can save our predictions here.
All right. I would love to just see a red Gwen ban from both players. I don't know if that is the best case scenario, but it is what I would like to see. I don't think you ever banned Ziggs Talia. I think Aragorn, our reigning world champion, did a very good job of highlighting the weaknesses of the Bandle City variant of this and highlighting the strengths of Unworthy Soul and some of the other tech cards you get out of Ionia. And just in the qualifiers for Worlds, we saw so many players fall out on these really clunky Bandle City hands, so that's definitely not the ban in my mind. Maybe it is just take the Aatrox off the table.
I honestly think that we're going to see another ban of GP Sedge, because that's honestly a very scary... Once GP is on the board, or not GP, once Sejuani's on the board and she's flipped, it's going to be really hard for these board-based tempo decks to be able to survive.
Okay, yeah, it is the Aatrox ban, and it is going to be the Plunder ban. I think that's a really good call-out. There's, you know, as I just mentioned, without Unworthy Soul, the Bandle City version is relying on the gimmick of, like, stunning, which doesn't matter to Sejuani. A warning shot while she's on the board is still going to frostbite you, so without those tempo-efficient plays, as long as she's around, yeah, it is going to be an issue. There's no hard removal for her, really, in any of these decks, so it makes sense, and that means that As much as I would have liked to avoid a Red Gwen mirror, it could even be the opener here.
I mean, let's be honest. Red Gwen mirrors aren't as bad as Seraphine mirrors. They're still pretty fast tempoed, but they can be easily one-sided.
Yeah, it's just when you cast as much as I do, I've seen a lot of Red Gwen mirrors. They're only so entertaining for so long.
For sure. Honestly, I think maybe ZSN is going to be playing some mind games here. He's probably thinking, you know what, Prodigy's probably going to rip out the Red Gwen first. Maybe I'm just going to throw a curveball and throw a Talia Ziggs and probably be able to push my way to victory easier, because I believe Talia Ziggs does fairly well into Red Gwen, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know, man. I think Bandle City Talia Ziggs is just big suck. I think it's just big suck right now, man. This deck does not impress me. It's so clunky. I feel like we have a more streamlined version of it. I'm ultimately just like not impressed by what Bandle City is bringing to the table here. And I don't know. Do you make any read into the fact that Prodigy did open with the Red Gwen in the previous set?
Maybe.
I guess like what is the read, right? Is it just like, okay, Prodigy likes opening Red Gwen, or like, oh, you know, they opened Red Gwen last time, so they think that I think they're going to open with it again, so they're actually going to open Leona Fiora.
See, that's it.
I got to say, though, based on the remaining decks, I do have to give advantage Prodigy.
That's where pretty much the mental warfare can come into this. It's like it's like trying to trip up your opponent. It's like trying to get especially in this type of format, seeing the player play before you. It gives you a good read about what these players like to do, what they like to pick, their tendencies, what decks they're most comfortable on. Pretty much all of the above. You're able to get that early read, and basically throw off their tempo with just one ban here, and deciding what deck you're going to pick into it.
Which is why Drissoth mathematically proved that the best way to determine your deck is to flip a coin. Take the mind games out of it, just flip your coin.
That will definitely throw opponent off so much, especially if they don't know that you're flipping the coin.
Better yet, if they do know you're flipping the coin.
It's like, oh my gosh, what is he gonna pick? I don't know. What's the coin gonna be?
You start like running a coin flipping simulator, and you're like, okay, mine came up tails like 37 out of 50 times, which means like theirs probably is coming up heads because I stole all the tails luck, which means they're gonna. And then you have to figure out which deck they appointed heads and which one they appointed tail.
Oh man!
All of a sudden, your opponent just has no mental capacity left for the actual game.
There's so many possibilities on what to pick. It's just like it can be overwhelming, especially if you're throwing off everything by just flipping a coin.
And this is why you flip the coin, so that you don't have to make these like go this hard on your brain power in the deck selection phase. Just pick a deck and jam it. And we're gonna see no red Gwen.
Maybe the coin was flipped. Maybe he's picking up from Drissoth and actually just flipped the coin.
It is mathematically sound, and now the hand for Prodigy looking pretty good. Zessin, no real great targets for these drop the bombs here in the opener, but that was pre-mulligan. So we are going to see a little bit of a different hand, but oof.
It's still not going to do a whole lot for us.
Yeah, which, I mean, that means, as I grab my shuffle, that Prodigy is looking very favored on the opening hand, which means Zessin's got to win, right? That's how things have been going for me tonight.
Always pick the opposite of what you're betting on. If we ever release the Aegis Esports betting site, always pick whatever Boulevard doesn't pick.
Yeah, and I'm picking Prodigy this game, baby. I'm all in on these stonks. Give it to me, Prod.
We're going to see the Twilight Protector come out, pushing 3 damage early on. Endless Devout, we're starting to develop a little bit of board here, but is it really going to matter for us? We don't have a Fiora on the side of Prodigy, but we do have the Leona to be able to stack up with Sunhawk herself, and I can't always remember the card. I always call him, he just says it's always day for us. I always forget what his name is.
Oh, Ravoon.
Thank you, Ravoon.
Ravoon, the Daylight Spear.
See, I remember what every
something
card...
along those lines.
I remember what every card does, I just don't remember the names because they can get like really long and hard to remember.
That was my issue with when the Darkin came out, and there were some things are just ex-cultist, but then some like Ranger Knight Defector just like not intuitive.
Yeah. We're going to see the Rite of the Arcane here coming out on the Sun Guardian, but we're going to see single combat on the Endless Devout here to answer just to get that tempo back.
I'm not sure. Like, I'm really down on sort of tempo single combats where it's like, okay, my unit is dying, let me get the value where I can. I'm really not a fan of those plays when, specifically in matchups where I feel like you can get a lot more value out of it. And with Ravoon in hand, like, single combat does kill level 2 Ziggs, and I think that's something that you kind of have to keep in mind. But it looks like Prodigy is just super unwilling to let a Devout connect with his Nexus.
Prodigy does have token right now, so that even if that single combat doesn't or wasn't coming out, it's still not going to be able to hit the Nexus unless we just open. But which is also
I mean,
still a
Zessin kind of just has to open, right? There's literally no other units in hand. Maybe it would change if something came off the top, but
that's true. So we're going to see this resolved. I imagine we're just going to see careful, or not careful preparation. Why do I always forget this? Ancient preparations. Jeez. We're gonna see ancient preparations.
It's some kind of preparations. Careful, ancient, something like that. But this one's actually the ancient one.
We're gonna see probably the Ziggs picked up here, I assume.
Yeah, like, you know, in the previous game, Rite of Negation was a really nice pickup because of the position that Pokeberry found themselves in to deal with a champion strength down the line. But right now, Zessin just needs to get on board.
Yeah.
And still takes the right.
We see Ravoon drop out. We see more Dawn and Dusk come out too. Not Dawn and Dusk. Why? Dawn and Dusk is the Ionia card. Why isn't this card called Dawn and Dusk? Honestly, it makes more sense thematically.
It does. It does. Do you want to try again, or do you just want to give up? Do you want to phone a friend?
I'm gonna phone a friend here. Can I borrow that shovel too, real quick?
Heavens aligned.
Thank you. See, like I said, I know what every card does. I just don't remember the names, and some of the names don't even match up to like Dawn and Dusk here. It makes so much sense to name it Dawn and Dusk. But we see Heaven's Line here, going to generate us more Daybreak value, especially with Ravoon on the field right now. We're going to see Weight of Judgment come straight out right now.
That might actually be the first time I've seen a Weight of Judgment come down off of a Shireen the Tellstone.
Well, I mean, it's only one. You're only picking either Weight of Judgment or Spirit's Fire, right?
Oh, I go Ruthless Predator almost every time.
Really?
Yeah, it might just be the kinds of decks that I'm playing, but
fair enough.
I feel like there's not a lot of weight targets in most decks, but in this one, Ravoon is sort of the perfect target for that card. And now Zessin gonna get that Devout, gonna be back on board. No attack token for Prodigy means it's going to be difficult to get barrier onto this Leona. Impossible, in fact, if Zessin wants to go for the open attack, which they do.
It's going to be real. It's going to put Prodigy in a very awkward spot here, honestly. We definitely what? Dude, we definitely block the Rock Hopper. Why is that so hard?
Hirsch, I know my hole looks really comfortable because I set up shop down here. I got a little fire going. I got the hammock, but feels like the fire's coming up and making you sleepy, bud.
It looks so comfy down there, man. You got room for two?
I am. This hole is great.
You got room for two down there?
I do. I'm going to dig a little bit deeper, you know, get closer to the center of the earth. It's nice and warm down here. There's no snow.
Maybe we'll eventually see our Oast friends, Eniamore, Fake Hero, Morpice.
Looks like it is just going to be 5 damage coming through onto Prodigy's Nexus, knock him down to 11. No real threat of lethal without an Absolver in Zessin's hand anytime soon. A nice little trade off to the side, but Prodigy, I guess it really is going to come down to what comes off of this Heavens Aligned, because the Solari Soldier at this stage of the game, you know, without being a permanent 3-3, Prodigy's probably not even going to throw it down this turn. But you kind of actually would rather get a Daybreak card off the Heavens Aligned. The Nightfall options, there's some stinkers in there for sure.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be saving this Sunburst for either Talia or Ziggs when it pops out. But yeah,
it might just be Solari Soldier into the Heavens Align to get a Daybreak card and set up for an attack next turn, but
I think that might be the move because since we don't have Ravune anymore, we need this Daybreak generation just to be able to get tempo out of this swing here.
Seeing the rope pop up for Prodigy.
Honestly,
and just an open pass.
I was actually just about to say that. I don't think it's the end of the world if we even pop the open pass here.
No, it's really not the end of the world, because we are going to go for the play now.
The sun's splendor revealed.
And just a really, really poor hand on the side of Zessen for the time being. This might just be a sort of a tempo minefield to stop the Leona from killing our Devout.
Yeah, this honestly makes a lot of sense to do. See Heaven's Align come out.
Ugh.
Gonna bring out Solari Shield Bearer.
Forward, in the name of the
See, I can remember that at least.
Yeah, why is that? That's not even a main deckable card, Hirsch. Why is that the one you remember?
I have very obscure knowledge on things. I don't know why. It's like the important things I find hard to remember, but like very obscure things I can always remember easily. So we see the Pale Cascade come out to save the Shield Bearer just to preserve our board here.
Hey, you remembered Pale Cascade. I'm proud of you.
Thanks, Dad.
You can join me in the hole, son.
Let's go!
Drop the bomb, gonna take out the Shield Bearer, though, and now Prodigy has the option of dropping Giral or just equipping the Dark and Aegis to one of the units, and I think there's still a lot of value to just be gotten out of Dark and Aegis at this point.
Would it have been wrong to Guiding Touch there?
Just to Guiding Touch the Nexus? Just heal a little bit? And...
No, I mean Guiding Touch
the Shield Bearer.
Just to make it live. Just to be able to preserve a unit still and keep that board tempo going.
I guess you don't care too much since you have board parity at the moment, alongside like 2 Concerted Strikes. Like, Prodigy is not at all worried about dying anytime soon, even if this Unleashed Energy play comes through. You know, this still isn't lethal damage. It's only 9. There's no additional burn. I guess you want to set up for these drop the bombs to come a little bit later on, but I think the 9 actually is going to stick here since if Zessen wants to play into the double right, which, I mean, if you're going to go this hard, you might as well. This Guiding Touch, suddenly saving it, going to do really big things for Prodigy.
So it's not the end for Prodigy yet. We're still alive by 2 with Guiding Touch. But it is really rough here.
And you wanted to Guiding Touch the Shield Bearer. What were you thinking, Hirsch? How could you not have seen Zessen going for this big push?
See, this is why we keep the shovel on hand by our chairs at all times.
Prodigy actually has not a half bad shot at lethal themselves coming up. Oh, maybe not with Zessen drawing another unit here, but you know, with the Barrier Challenger Leona, with the Giral coming out as well.
So, there's still a chance here. We Guiding Touch into Ravune. I think we will still have enough mana to be able to play.
And Prodigy does need to Guiding Touch this turn. Unless,
we're pushing
Hirsch, if Zessen passes... Oh, I was going to say, if Zessen passes and Prodigy is baited into going for the Sunburst to try and push lethal. Oh?
Oh, wait. Drawing that Leona's huge, actually. Wait, did Prodigy just find lethal?
This... I don't think so. Because this doesn't reactivate Leona because we targeted the soldier with it, right? Oh, why does it... What does this card do now?
Prodigy found lethal! He won!
I thought it only activated 1 Daybreak.
No, it still activates all Daybreak.
Daylight everlasting.
Then what does it target for?
You're able to... it buffs only one.
Yeah, so it says...
Wait.
Activate an ally's Daybreak effect, and he cast it on the Solari Soldier.
Yes, because Solari Soldier does proc the Daybreak effect, and Leona procs off of Daybreak effects.
There we go. That's what it is.
There we go. We figured
That's
it out.
confusing as shit. But Prodigy did find lethal.
Wow, that game was actually really close. That came down to the wire. Top decking the Leona champ spell was huge.
I mean, I don't think it mattered too much. I don't think there was really any way that Zessen could have won that game because both of your champions died. I guess if you had top decked a Talia, even though it wouldn't have won because Sunburst would have killed it, it would have duplicated another bomb that would have gone off on the following turn.
Well, I mean, leveled Ziggs also does or finishes lethal too, right? Because leveled Ziggs does 2 to face.
Yeah, I think it would have. No, because Ziggs would have just died to the Sunburst.
This is also true, yes.
But I think Talia might have actually been lethal because of the bomb double. But Prodigy doesn't play to the top deck. Instead, finds lethal immediately, thanks to the Morning Light.
And here...
Even though...
Go ahead, sorry. I didn't mean to cut you
I was
off.
going to say, even though I have no idea how these cards function, apparently.
It's okay. Two old men are figuring out what cards in card game do. I think we can get there.
There was a point in at Casting Worlds with Alan where I thought I knew what Purifying Flame did, but Alan seemed more sure than I did and was just completely wrong and convinced me that it did what he thought it did.
But we are going to see the Red Gwen mirror coming out here.
And very different hands for these players. I don't think Prodigy runs half the cards in Zessen's opener.
No, not running. Running Rune Squire here is actually really interesting.
As well as Brutal Skirmish in the main.
I don't know how well that's going to tech out in this mirror here. It might actually work out here. I'm not too familiar with Brutal Scrimmage. Brutal Scrimmage is still a newer card, and that's something that I haven't seen a ton. But we're going to see the Brutal Scrimmage right now coming to clear out this Katarina here.
Yeah, so far not the best considering Prodigy has a second copy.
But it's not the worst. It was not the worst. It's
not the worst. Not the worst indeed. Actually, no. Yeah, I am willing to say that it is the worst because you had to cut a card to make room for that, right?
What?
What? Oh my!
The
more I look at Zessen's list, the full 3 of Opulent Foyer, Hirsch.
That's very spicy. That is extremely
and a Blighted
spicy.
Caretaker.
We're running Blighted
Hirsch,
Caretaker and 2 Rune Squires.
I have found the card that Zessen has cut to make room for all of this nonsense.
What is the card? I can't.
Redeemed Prodigy.
I see now.
That is not a card that you cut, in my opinion.
It's a lot of people are sleeping on Redeemed Prodigy, in my opinion. It's an infinite value generator here. It's just
wait. People are not playing Redeemed Prodigy.
No, people are playing Redeemed Prodigy, but their opinion on the card is not correct, in my opinion. It's like people are.
I see.
People are just they're sleeping on it, in my opinion.
Oh, Prodigy's about to lose. Oh, okay, not gonna lose the Katarina. Is gonna lose the Gwen to this Mark of the Isle when we go in for the trade with the Blade's Edge. It's gonna be Zessen able to level a Katarina of their own. I'm actually kind of curious if Prodigy lines up the block onto the Spiderling.
I don't think it's worth it to line up the block on the Spiderling, especially since we know that we're holding onto Whirling Death, or not Whirling Death, Whirling Blades. That's what the card's called. Whirling Death is the Draven spell.
Do you mean Death Lotus?
Is it Death Lotus? Am I just dumb? Am I actually just digging myself a bigger hole here now?
I don't know what you think Whirling Blades is, but that's not a card name, so...
I might be just digging myself a hole here. I thought...
Do you mean Katarina spell?
Yes, I meant Katarina spell.
Okay,
I thought it was,
okay, yeah, that's Death
why.
Lotus.
I don't know why I thought it was Whirling Blades here. Dude, give me
so the reason that it's fine, though, is like, if you line up the block onto the Spiderling and they Death Lotus, then they kill the Spiderling. So your Katarina doesn't take any damage anyway. Or it takes the 1 damage,
true.
which, like...
It actually does kill your own units, too. I forgot about that.
And then you kind of, like, fork the mark there on, like, are you going to kill my Katarina or are you going to kill my Gwen? But Zessin, the first one to level the Katarina, although it doesn't really matter. Prodigy's still coming in swinging here. That's a lot of spells on the stack.
That is. Seeing the Blade Edge, the Death Lotus, and the
Glimpse.
So we are going to see Katarina come off the board. We're not going to see this Katarina flip at all.
That said, Prodigy's still the one with the harrowing.
But we do have the one blighted caretaker to be able to generate us, or to try to pull this Gwen off the field. I don't think we're going to be able to do it because we have nothing to kill Boulevard.
Yeah, that's what the triple opulent foyer is for. So maybe if we top deck one, you know, we can summon that unit, get another hallowed proc, pull this Gwen off to the side, have a good time. But Prodigy going to be able to develop the Eternal Dancer.
We're really opting to pass here. I feel like we should have swung with Katarina here, no?
I don't see a great reason not to. Unless Zessin...
And we do top deck the foyer!
I'm so good at this game.
So you're good at predicting top decks. That's what we found. That is
look, everybody's good for something, all right?
I'm good at predicting players. You're good at predicting top decks. Perfect deal.
We're
right
both
there.
really good at digging. I know card names. You know what cards do.
we literally just compliment each other, Boulevard.
Yeah.
We can fill in the blanks wherever we fall.
What's your play here, Zessin? Is it going to be a Blighted Caretaker angle onto one of your champions? You do have a second Katarina in hand if you want to get spicy here.
I don't think we do. There's no way we Blighted Caretaker one of the champions.
I've watched a lot of APAC Legends of Runeterra. Let me tell you, some of these goons are unpredictable.
I honestly think the right move was to drop the Opulent 4 into Blighted Caretaker because we have enough Hollow stacks in the bank right now, especially more with if we even didn't, that we'd be able to trade right now, effectively.
I was going to say, Prodigy just kind of debating, do I want to just develop a blocker here for the Gwen and then throw down my Eternal Dancers, or do I want to take a bit of a safer line and stun it out? And it is going to end up being the stun. Zessin didn't go in for the attack with the Katarina last turn, so I'm hard-pressed to imagine they're going to do it now.
We do,
but now might be the time to actually just sack the Gwen to the Caretaker.
It's still not a bad idea. It's still very viable here. They did revert Caretaker.
You would get to take out. I mean, you would take out the Gwen and the Redeemed Prodigy.
Zessin debating on which line he wants to take here. And we're opting to do... Oh, we're killing the Katarina! Oh.
Goodbye. I told you. You never know what APAC players are thinking.
Oh my god.
And I mean, it's not the worst play in the world, right?
It's not.
It is very defensible in the sense that Death Lotus is not a card that you expect to get value here. You have a second copy of the cat, and you might as well keep the Gwen around, I guess. I mean... I thought, sack the Gwen because she's stunned, but apparently Zessin values keeping her around, which maybe just really has a hard read that Prodigy doesn't have a flock.
So we definitely pull the Prodigy here as well. It's very awkward to say now.
What?
Especially, no, wait, why are we trading? What are we doing?
I have no idea what is going through Zessin's mind that they are not sending their ephemeral unit into combat.
I am so confused.
What are you saving it for next game?
Like, Prodigy doesn't have any pings. He doesn't run any Blade's Edge. That was a very safe line to take right there.
Even if it's not safe, you just send it in, unless you're really worried about Prodigy harrowing on you next turn, and you want them to have a gummed up board is literally the only thing that I can conceive here.
Well, I'm gonna quote somebody. I don't remember who. I'm gonna quote somebody that I heard this like a few minutes ago. Apex players are very unpredictable. You don't know what they're gonna do.
The only thing that I can think is that you want to keep Prodigy's board big for the harrowing. The problem with that is that this redeemed Prodigy was going to be on the field whether or not you killed it if the harrowing is what you were playing around. Like, it was coming back anyway. I think you still die to harrowing.
I think so too. Let's see, we don't swing with Arachnoid Sentry here. We swing with everything but Sentry.
Okay, I get it. Check it out. Zessin knew that they were going to top deck Quietance and wanted to kill the redeemed Prodigy post-harrowing so that they could just die to everything else.
But we're opting to throw in the opulent board just to produce us another blocker here. Like I said, we're throwing everything out but Arachnoid Sentry here. We're pushing 30 damage to face Boulevard.
Oh. How much of this actually connects? It's like
3,
4,
5,
5, 6, 7, 8. Plus a Gwen? I think it's lethal.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I honestly think we're in a safer spot if we just cleared out the board a little bit more. I think we could have lived.
I mean, I think that redeemed Prodigy comes back from the harrowing anyway.
They'll never know what killed them.
But, like, you were trading an ephemeral unit for it, so what does it matter?
So we're gonna see Prodigy take this set from ABG Targon, putting Puffcap Peddlers at 2-1. ABG Targon down to Belcoot with Diana Leona, Ezreal Seraphine, Aatrox Kane. Still pretty decent, in my opinion. Still a pretty decent lineup into Prodigy. I don't know how the Demacia version of the Diana Leona deck is going to pan out into Prodigy's lineup, but we'll definitely see.
I think it's a little bit too low to the ground. I think if you are going to go on the Demacia variant, Diana is not what I want to be seeing out of you. I don't mind Fiora. I like Aurelion Soul, but I don't even mind like just a 2 of Aesol and then like a 1 of Fiora or something along those lines. I think Diana is just a little bit too small. But we are on match point for the first time here this evening. We're going to throw it to a small break, and when we come back, we'll see if Prodigy is enough to take it down and secure the win for the Puffcat Peddlers, or if Belcoot can clean out that reverse sweep and take us to a set 5.
Before we cut to a break, though... Oh, never mind.
And we are back, and Hirsch has once again correctly predicted the next player that is going to be thrown out by the team. Since there is only one player remaining, it is going to be Belcoot, stuck with the chance of taking out 2 of the players on Puffcat Peddlers, Prodigy and Tank Buster.
Man, I'm so good at predicting players. It's like I was like destined for this, Boulevard. But one thing I also want to point out...
You have a gift?
I do. One thing I also want to point out that I didn't get to mention because we cut to a break abruptly, but you actually predicted the right one this time. You predicted Prodigy to win. I'm so proud of you. You're moving up in the world, Boulevard.
Oh, this is an issue. This is an issue. I have to put some dirt back in my hole. I have to, like, move up a few feet. I'm further from the center of the earth. It's getting colder. I can feel the snow coming in. I'm a little bit worried. So we're going to take a look at a deck from Belcoot here. I actually didn't ask you which one, so it's going to be a surprise to me, but it is the Diana Leona. Very similar to the Fiora Leona that we see out of Prodigy.
Yeah, it's pretty much very similar. I think we're pretty much running card for card here, except for... No, I think that's pretty much everything, except for the champion difference.
I don't think there's Petrosite Broadwing in
Prodigy's
list.
And there's also no Solari Shield Bearer in there, too.
And there's randomly one Guiding Touch, which we saw come up really big earlier, actually.
Yeah. But
so a few differences, not just in some of the cards run, but also the numbers. You know, very heavy on Concerted Strike for a Prodigy, 3 of the full 3 copies, which I think gives them a significant advantage in this matchup if we do see the head-to-head.
I'm trying to figure out, like, are we ever flipping Diana here? It's gonna, like, obviously we have the Nightfall Twilight Protector here. We're obviously Nightfalling Pale Cascade here, and the Nightfall from Diana as well. But I don't think there's any other real way to flip Diana. Diana maybe just the unit just to trade early on, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and I don't think that Prodigy's really got some decks that are going to fall susceptible to the early game that Diana wants to be playing. This would be a much better choice than the Fiora into something like... I was going to say discard aggro, but I feel like Fiora actually has a chance to just win with her ability against discard aggro, so it's not the best sort of idea in the world. But, you know, maybe Diana actually does do a lot of heavy lifting in the Red Gwen matchup.
Yeah. And moving on... One thing we also forgot to mention, all these graphics that you have seen throughout tonight's broadcast are brought to you by Runeterra AR, the best place to grab a deck. But moving on into ban phase here, we are going to see the Diana Leona deck that we highlighted before. We are going to see the Ezreal Seraphine deck, and the last deck, I'm having to pull it up, sorry. The last deck we're going to see is the Aatrox Kane decks. Thank you. So, what are we looking to ban here on both sides here, Boulevard? I think. Go ahead. Sorry.
I don't think Prodigy is too keen on playing into Aatrox. We saw them. I believe we saw him leave up the Ezreal Seraphine against Pokeberry, but that might have just been because of the double ruination in the Heimer Jace. I wouldn't be too surprised if Prodigy did pivot into banning that, but I would say the Aatrox Kane is probably the ban.
Maybe. And we're going to see the Ezreal Seraphine come out and the GP Sedge. We don't want to see this GP Sedge at all. Like I said, like I've been saying this whole night, it's a very scary deck. It's very volatile once Sejuani's able to come on the board flipped.
Yeah, people just really paying respects to the Spirit Unleashed version of this deck. I mean, if you've played the Rising Tides Gauntlet that's currently ongoing, you've certainly run into at least 3 people running Gangplank Sejuani, but I promise this list looks very different than the ones that we are running in the Gauntlet. This Spirits Unleashed buff is doing wonders, and honestly, the deck didn't really impress at the World Championship, but that could just be because Tank was the only one to bring it and did not find himself in a group where the Spirits Unleashed was going to be doing as much work as you kind of wanted it to. But I don't think that ABG has really been running decks that fall prey to the Spirits Unleashed either. And Prodigy, as a longtime Red Gwen player, I just don't know if ABG's not paying respect to it, if people really don't think Red Gwen is a good deck right now or what. But am not convinced that Plunder was the correct ban in every set that we have seen it ban tonight.
I don't know. Like I said, into the Aatrox matchups, like we this is the one that Aatrox matchup that we're seeing go through right now. But into this Aatrox matchup, I think if Sejuani is able to come down matching on curve matching the Aatrox, it's gonna be so hard for Belku to be able to swing in, get his tempo swings in.
The thing is, like, if Sejuani comes down on 6 and she's leveled, that means one of two things: either the Plunder player has just no cards in hand, or the Aatrox player is significantly ahead on board. To the point where if you can get down Aatrox on the same turn that the Sejuani comes down, you probably have a pretty reduced world ender. And if you can resolve that card, I think that you've just got enough hardy bodies on board that Sejuani is not going to... Like, she's going to run out of ways to proc her ability before you die.
Yeah. What do you think that we're going to see the first deck out tonight from both sides here?
We should... I mean, I guess Prodigy's flipping a coin, so I have no insight there. But let me see the double Darkin from Belcoot. Okay, yeah, double Darkin.
So going into Fiora Leona, I honestly think that Prodigy might have not flipped the coin on this one. I think Prodigy was thinking pretty much this deck has a very strong chance of winning into this, like we were saying earlier, with Champion Strength being a huge turning point or pivotal point for this deck if Aatrox is able to come out flipped.
Oh, and we just see we're gonna see a lot of inaction for the first few turns out of these players.
Yeah.
Already speedrunning our way to turn number 3, and a much better top deck on Prodigy's side than Belcoot's.
Yeah, we're gonna see Dark and Aegis come out. I think on Keeper of the Box here, or we might just set up with the Dark and Harp just to be able to heal up this 4 damage that we're taking next turn.
Yeah, I mean, if you're planning on blocking, you could just throw out the Bloodletters just to get the equip down for your Ranger Knight Defector, as well as get that 1/1 on board.
This is also true.
But it kind of comes down to, are you actually blocking this? It's one of those weird things where you could just block with the Keeper of the Box later on. You know, this Sun Guardian is only going to get bigger, but it is not going to get Overwhelm or Elusive. You have a chance to block more than 4 damage with the 2 units on board.
For sure. Prodigy debating on whether he wants to swing or not here. I think honestly,
That's actually Belcoot's priority.
Oh, it is Belcoot's priority. Belcoot actually holding up Bloodletters right now. Looking like he is going to take that line.
Yeah, now we just see, you know, is it actually a block, or are we just getting the equip down to play mana efficiency going into our turn with the Ranger Knight? No attack from Prodigy.
That's very interesting. I think he doesn't want to get that double equip off the Dark Enthrall here right now. Not much for Prodigy to do this turn. He has the option to pit 2 Sunbursts now.
Yeah, and that's a pretty impactful Sunburst. A lot of mana gone for Belcoot. Of course, the weapon will still go back to hand, but Prodigy's unit continues to get bigger and bigger, and now Leona can come down. Pretty big tempo swing and quite a bit of damage coming through if Belcoot doesn't want to throw something in the way.
Glorious light rains down.
We can't throw Kane into this, I think. I think maybe we just sack Dural here just to save damage. Yep.
Yeah, with no mana available for Prodigy. And this is going to tutor the Aatrox.
We don't even take this block. We just let the 6 go through. That's fine.
Oh man, this is about to get interesting because Belcoot's going to be able to really safely get down on Aatrox, but Prodigy with the Champion Strength in hand, you know, could change things at any point here. Looks like we're actually just going to go for a preemptive kill onto the Leona, but this is not going to get Prodigy out of the range of single combat. Can kill this Dural if he wants to.
And we're
no objections from Prodigy.
That's very interesting. The Sun Guardian is just generating massive amount of value right now, just becoming a 7/8 right now. It's going to be hard to deal with later on into the game. We do have the Furious Wielder to answer it, though, but we're going to have to basically trade something down for it.
Yeah, it might end up just being the Dural on the crackback. You know, it's only going to go down to 4 attack here. This is not a permanent 6 attack. This was off of a momentous choice, but that plus the Aatrox would kill it. There's no more Daybreak effects in Prodigy's hand.
So we are going to see the Aatrox come down. 12 mana World Ender. Still got a lot of work
Might just
to go.
be single combat from Prodigy.
I honestly don't hate single combat here. Getting this Aatrox off the board right now is not the worst idea in the world.
It's kind of iffy when it comes to Aatrox, right? Just because of the immortality through the World Ender.
Yeah.
Still, it's kind of this weird matchup where this is one of the very few Unforgiving Cold decks left in the meta. You really saw a hard drop-off of decks running that card after the nerf, going up to 5 mana instead of 4. But you just do not really see Pantheon Varus much these days anymore. So it might be one of those things where you have to take the, like, you have to just kind of slip in the single combats where you can and play around that Frostbite spell, because if you go in for an attack here, you have to assume it's going to come out. But you also kind of need to bait it out before you play your Champion Strength, so...
For sure.
It's the reason the card was nerfed.
We are going to see... we are going to see a swing here from Prodigy. We're going to trade Durals here. And then we swing the rest. Or we don't even we don't swing this 3/4 Sun Guardian. We swing the 7/8 here. Belcoot is going to answer with Furious Wielder, though, to be able to trade down this Sun Guardian.
Do you ever preemptively pale your Dural so that you're not trading Durals? Just to preserve another unit for the Champion Strength?
Possibly. I think so. Actually, no. We can't. We aren't going to be able to Furious Wielder here.
Yeah, it's going to be 6 mana.
Yeah, Dural's going to take this out of range now, so we're not going to be able to trade down effectively with this Sun Guardian unless we sack our own Dural here. And we're just going to take 7 damage to the face right now.
I dare say, things looking pretty good for Prodigy. Assuming it's not a great spot for Prodigy, I will say. You've only got these 3 units. If any of them die, like, the more units die, the less effective your Champion Strength is, and I'm not even sure that your Champion Strength at the current moment is like a game-ending Champion Strength.
Do we ever pre-commit this Furious Wielder onto the Sun Guardian right now?
You just get blown out by single combat.
It is super risky, but it's accomplishing the same thing, sort of. We just lose a little bit of board tempo.
Prodigy deciding that they are the one who wants to clean up the board a little bit. Single combat still available if Belcoot does go for a Furious Wielder, but it, at the very least would trade out onto the Sun Guardian.
This trade is actually very value. I would be surprised if he doesn't, but that would make Prodigy commit another single combat here, just to be able to guarantee that it's going to connect and we get the value out of this. And
yeah, that said, though, if both players lose their boards, that very heavily favors Belcoot.
Will Prodigy answer with another single combat just to preserve it? And
it's very likely. Because Belcoot didn't use the Furious Wielder on the Aatrox, you didn't force out single combat onto another unit, so this Sun Guardian is actually just going to survive. And with Pale Cascade and Guiding Touch available, it can survive just about anything that Belcoot wants to throw at it still. Which, I mean, do we just see Seratu drop?
I think we need to develop a bigger board here. I think we need to develop the, why can't I think of the other cultist one? The 6/8.
The Spear?
Yes, the Spear, thank you.
Oh, I think it's a Naka?
I think we need to develop a bigger board here, honestly. But we're going to see Dural come out instead here. We're ripping the champion strength out here early.
I don't mind that, just because Prodigy is in a very weird position where, you know, they are very susceptible to losing the board. And I think what's really pushing the issue for Prodigy here is the fact that Belkut is tapped beneath the Unforgiving Cold.
Belkut is going to lose his entire board here, I think. I don't think there's really an answer to really preserve anything on the board.
Yeah, I mean, Belkut gets the attack token, but at the moment, that really doesn't mean anything. You kind of need to put a spear on the Giral before anything's happening there. So, at the very least, you have made it so that Prodigy is going to be losing their Giral if they go in for a swing, which they are. But you also lose your Aatrox here, and then likely just lose the game on the open attack. Prodigy goes in when there's blood in the water, says, hey, you don't have a Frostbite spell. This is my chance to actually get in some big damage. And if Belkut has a you know, Unforgiving Cold on the following turn, then yeah, it's not going to be lethal from Prodigy. But at the moment, we can see that Belkut doesn't have it. Instead, just locked up on 3 copies of Kayn.
I don't think there's anything that Belkut could top deck here.
Unforgiving Cold.
Oh, well, yeah, true. My bad. I completely forget about that card. It's been I stopped playing Kayn Aatrox and swapped the Vayne Aatrox because I think honestly that might be the better Aatrox deck right now, especially in the mirrors. But
yeah, Belkut sees the writing on the wall, says an open attack kills me. Let's get into game number 2.
So we are going to see Red Gwen left up, and we have Diana Leona and still Aatrox Kayn. Do we... I think Diana Leona might be the best bet into Red Gwen, honestly.
I mean, it doesn't matter, right? You need to win with both of them, so whichever one you send out next doesn't really change much because we're not really playing for game score here.
This is also true. It's just... with Aatrox Kayn, it's just... it gets blown out a lot easier, especially on the early game if Prodigy's able to roll an early hand here. And we are going to see the Diana Leona into the Red Gwen right now. Hopefully these are pretty mull. I mean, Belkut doesn't have the worst hand. It's actually not that bad. But Prodigy's looking not too hot right now.
Prodigy is one of the players still on 3 copies of Quietus, so if we can find one of those in the opening hand, it's going to severely reduce the effectiveness of this Petricite Broadwing, of this Solari Sunhawk. Just actually quite a few targets in this list. I mean, even the Diana.
Yeah, for sure.
But instead we get a couple copies of Harrowing, which honestly not bad if Prodigy can find some of the Reckoners.
We're going to see the Broadwing ripped out here, trading into the Prodigy. See, dealing with this infinite generating value here early on is honestly really good for the side of Belkut. It slows down a lot of the tempo. But we do see another Redeem Prodigy on the side of Prodigy's hand. That's a mouthful to say. Redeem Prodigy in Prodigy's hand.
We also see the Eternal Dancers picked up, but nothing impressive in the death pool yet. Gwen might end up there, and that's never like a bad pickup with Eternal Dancers, but it's sort of like, I would say that Gwen is sort of like the low end of your good pickups off of an Eternal Dancer.
Golden Sister's not a bad pickup here.
And we just skip it.
I honestly think Golden Sisters might have been a good early on win con. That's actually very surprising.
Yeah, I guess instead just going for the ability to kill Gwen.
Getting this Gwen off the board early will save us a lot more going into the later game, but it's not going to do a whole lot because this Prodigy's still going to swing, still generating that hollowed value.
Yeah, we're up to 3 hallowed stacks on the side of Prodigy very, very early on. Ruined Reckoner, okay, still looking for that Fallen Reckoner. Fallen Reckoner top deck for Prodigy would be game ending, but it's going to be Katarina instead.
We're going to see the Gwen drop on the side of Prodigy right now. Going to be answered by Sunburst.
And that is not going to count as a hallowed stack for Prodigy. The silence comes out, then the damage. And now, while the Sunburst isn't available for the Eternal Dancers, there are enough stuns in Belkoot's hand that that unit is not going to get to connect very early on. But once it comes down and is established after this first initial stun, there's no way for Belkoot to remove it at the moment, so it will eventually get value, and the Fallen Reckoner has been found. The pieces are starting to come together, Hirsch. The harrowing win condition is looking all the more real for Prodigy.
See the Leona come out right now. It's going to stop this big swing. We are going to see Solari Sunhawk drop. Actually, no, we're not. We're going to see Ravoon drop.
Oh, and now Sunhawk sort of opens up the possibility of a double stun.
You see the Rune Record come out right now. I imagine we're going to drop Solari Soldier here.
If you Solari Soldier, you do potentially have a kill onto Eternal Dancers with a Leona challenge in a single combat.
Bless the faithful and fear the heretics.
I think getting this Eternal Dancers off the board for Belkoot is a huge priority right now.
And with Barrier on Leona, okay, yeah. Yeah, Katarina comes down, and that might have to be where your single combat goes for Belkoot. Things looking very, very good for Prodigy so far.
We're seeing the full swing come out right now.
Yeah, this is a lot of damage, and Prodigy can't not open attack from here on out.
Eternal Dancers has to come out for our block, right? We need to start preserving a bit of this damage.
In which case you open up the single combat. Like, if Prodigy can find the time to get to the harrowing, then it's a very clear and obvious win. But I think with the Leona Ravoon combo established and 2 Sunhawks in hand, Belkoot might not give him the time.
So we are opening up with the Midnight Rush here. It's going to pull the Gwen out. This Gwen will trade into one of these.
Anything, it's going to be at 6 attack. Okay, doing a good job cleaning up some of the board.
Yeah, we are going to see the single combat come out onto the Eternal Dancer. Is going to make this board a lot harder for Prodigy right now. Not putting him in a very comfortable spot.
No glimpse from Prodigy to just draw off of the Gwen. Could do it now. Chooses not to once that Spellman instead understands the harrowings are coming.
Yeah, we had to save this mana for the harrowing. We are going to pull 3 Gwens?
3 Gwens. Eternal Dancers, 3 Gwens, and a Katarina.
Wait, we're pulling 4 Gwens.
That's just 8 damage off of... Okay, so we're actually... It's not going to quite be that, but this Leona's life might be forfeit. We've got the Blade's Edge to pop the barrier.
We are going to have Katarina come back to our hand here. Gwen is going to do massive damage, threatening 40.
Heretic, I will protect you.
And that's enough.
And I think this is lethal because... Actually, no, it's not lethal.
Oh, we still have
but you are going to lose your entire board if you're Belkoot in the follow-up harrowing. It's probably going to do it.
We Blade's Edge in response here.
Yeah, but I mean, what happens now? Belkoot goes to their turn to develop a few units. They're certainly not killing Prodigy, and then Prodigy can just bank Spellman into the second harrowing. We thought Belkoot, you know, it looked really good for a second there. We were putting on a lot of pressure. Maybe Prodigy wasn't going to have the opportunity to go for these harrowings, but just Gwen stabilizing so hard for Prodigy, bringing that life total up so big. And the Gwen's level.
I don't think there's a way for Belkoot to even get out of this. We're gonna develop. We're just winning by Gwen spells here. Or Gwen
yeah,
spell.
and because Gwen's leveled, you can't even Solari Priestess into Traveler into Cosmic Rays.
Solari Sun Priest is coming out. nothing really is going to secure us a win here. Written
No.
Star is not going to do much for us.
The Gwen level is actually so big in taking away the one out that Belcoot potentially had.
Daylight warms the heart and lights the way.
See, the Fallen Record are coming out. Going to force out a non-blocking unit now. Falling Comet onto the Falling Reckoner.
Owen glimpse to duck it.
And that's looking like it's the game for Belcoot. Prodigy is going to come out the winner. Prodigy swept all of ABG.T. Concerted not even going to do enough for us. That is the game. Prodigy,
That's
PCP
the series.
is going to
the
the finals.
First time that I have not had to cast 5 sets here in the top cut of the Aegis Esports League. Not that I hate casting 5 sets or anything, but it's near the holiday. Boulevard got other stuff to be doing right now, just like Tank does, because he didn't even have to come in. Like you said, Prodigy sweeps the entire ABG Targon scene solo.
For sure. And just to update people on the other side of the bracket, if I can pull this up real quick. Last update that I got was Red Pub Scarlet was 2-1 into Broken Wombats. Trevo was the last remaining player. He stopped Gouda from the 3-0 sweep. And just now looking at it, Red Pub Scarlet is going to finals. Red Pub Scarlet is playing Puff Cat Peddlers in finals, Boulevard.
This is so unsurprising to me. If you had put a blindfold on me and told me to pick one team to make it to finals, it would have been... I didn't even have to know the name of the team. I would have just told you whichever team Floppy Mudkip is on. And lo and behold, Floppy Mudkip's in the finals.
I was talking with Red about this when we did our meetup. Honestly, out of both Red Pub's teams, I honestly thought it was going to be Crimson going to finals. Crimson was such a stacked roster with Loser Beam, with Cup, with why am I blanking on the other two people? Why am I blanking on
Ptash?
Ptash, yes, Ptash as well. Just those three players alone are just absolutely scary players to go up against. But we are going to get an interview with Prodigy here in a couple seconds once I drag him up here. Boop, boop, boop. Welcome, Prodigy. How are you doing tonight, Mr. Prodigy?
I'm doing great. Yeah, having a great time.
So, how does it feel to actually completely 3-0 all of ABG Targon?
Feels very good. I've swept both rounds of playoffs that I've played in, so yeah, it's nice to be 6-0 in playoffs.
So, Prodigy, I need to ask, because I was checking Twitter during the World Championship, and you were talking about how you didn't think Red Gwen was a good meta call for Worlds. And obviously, like, some things have changed since then. The meta has shifted a bit. Some hotfix nerfs have come out, and I see that you are back on the Red Gwen tonight. Was it the nerfs, or was it something else?
Yeah, it was the nerfs to champion strength. Internally, when we tested, you could just play 3 champion strength decks and just swarm the board, and then jam champs on like 5 or 6, and Red Gwen can never beat champs on 6. And Red Gwen is killing on 7 or 8, as you saw from a lot of those games. So we just found that it was very targetable with champion strength, and we thought that was the best deck that people were going to be on. So that was our read. It might have been a little wrong, but we thought more people were going to be on champion strength like Jordan was on, because we thought it was just the best thing you could be doing. And it got hotfix nerfed, so we were kind of right.
Fair enough. So I don't know if you've checked the bracket now, but the scores are in. You guys are going up against Red Pub Games Scarlet in finals. How do you feel about that, Prodigy?
Well, that was my pick'ems, so that's a good sign, right?
Yeah.
No, actually, these guys are cracked. I was hoping to play them at some point. We played them in the group stage and we lost. So I'm excited to get a rematch. We prep with a lot of those guys. They were actually in our prep group for Worlds, so they have phenomenal players. Really respect them. Yeah, it's going to be a good series. Hopefully, we can be on form and bring our A game.
Okay, I do have one last question. This Plunder deck, because we saw Tank on this deck at Worlds. I don't think we got to really see it do much. I think it was banned or it wasn't really finding the matchups that it wanted to. Even though Champion Strength has been nerfed and we're not really seeing that, you're still playing Spirits Unleashed, even though it's a very mid-range style meta and that one damage sweep might not be as doing as much. Do you really think that the one buff to everything everywhere is enough, or are you leaning more on the champions? Or talk just a little bit about this deck.
Yeah, so Plunder is a really cool deck. It can do a lot of things. It can play for the Sejuani lock, but it can also just play for pure tempo. So Spirits Unleashed is great because you can go Shell Shocker on one, and then you can bank all the mana into... You can go like Shell Shocker, play another one drop, and then go Spirits Unleashed. And then typically against a lot of like slower decks, you can just start to swarm the board out with like your Mirai Wardens. And your stuff gets really, really big really fast. And you kind of recoup the tempo loss pretty quickly, because you play a lot of like Make It Rain and Parley, and so you can kind of clear out the blockers and just you can push a lot of damage really fast. And it is a little AoE. It gives you that Plunder proc, so you're not doing nothing. It's definitely a cheeky deck, but it's my lineup is designed to do two things. It's designed to beat Red Gwen, and it's designed to be able to play into Aatrox. And so against Aatrox, you can just aggro them out. You don't play for Spirits Unleashed, but you just aggro them out with Swarm, and then you try to kill GP. Oh, and then if that doesn't work, you can try to Sedge Lock and pray. And so yeah, it just kind of is a good third deck. It also beats Red Gwen really nicely because you can freeze lock their Harrowing turns. You have Parlay and Make It Rain to clear out all the X1s that they play. And yeah, they normally just can't keep up. You can just trade on the board very effectively against them. So.
All right, I lied. I do actually have one other question. In your match against Pokeberry, you banned Heimer Jace. Was that a Heimer Jace ban, or was that a double Ruination ban?
A little bit of both. The double Ruination is very spooky for my Daybreak specifically. My lineup does not like BC Bar at all, but my Daybreak is not going to be able to beat a double Ruination with lots of Vengeances. Because as you saw, I play a lot of very tall units, like Leona, Ravoon, Sun Guardian. But my threat density is relatively low, so if they have backline stuff, it can be a real problem with the Vengeances and stuff. They can just kind of kill my Ravoon and mess that deck up. So that was a ban to get Daybreak through, because the matchup into Bar is better than the Daybreak and than the Heimer Jace, or at least that was our best guess. So, but ultimately the goal was to beat the other deck twice, which was the Malphite.
Now, my question for you, just because I fell victim to this deck yesterday with you playing Fiora Leona on ladder, was this a deck that you came up with yourself?
Yeah, I mean, well, okay, so the original idea was Worlds Prep. We tested the deck. We brought it to Worlds. Drizoth and Jordan were kind of the innovators originally. And we couldn't figure out what the third champion was. We were playing Aphelios, we were playing Zoe, we were playing all these third champions. And I just liked the deck, kept playing it a lot, and eventually thought about Fiora and realized that was probably the right way to go. And yeah, Fiora is amazing in the deck. It gives you an alt win con. And yeah, just does exactly what you want. It bridges that gap from 3 to 5.
Yeah,
so,
and that in all, I think pretty much all of Aegis history was the first time we've ever seen a Fiora win con on stream.
Yeah, Fiora's insane. Even if she doesn't win the game, she forces your opponent to like respect her and divert resources away from your other stuff. So yeah, I really like the Daybreak list. I've been playing a lot of games with it, and it's definitely a very rewarding deck to play.
Any other questions from you, Boulevard?
No, that was all. Prodigy, got any shout outs you want to give?
Shout out to the boys, Tank and Prism and Max, for just being good teammates and letting me just help me prep. And Roji helped us practice. We scrimmed the Malphite matchup a little bit, which ended up coming in very handy. So it's kind of a nod to him as well. And yeah, shout out to Red Pup. We'll see them in the finals. Should be a fun time.
Sick.
All right. With that, I do have a few announcements that I want to do. If you are over here working at Aegis Esports and you let me know that it is your birthday, I will definitely shout you out on stream. But tonight, I want to wish a very happy birthday to Mr. Monte Cristo himself. Happy birthday, brother. I hope you have a good one. Enjoy your entire day. Thank you for all you do for us here in the community and here at Aegis Esports as well. And I also want to give a shout out to Mr. Wookie Monster. This is the first time that we actually get to show him on stream. Wookie, get over here. Come here, Wookie. This man does not get... He is the unsung hero of this production. Without this man right here, a lot of these productions would not happen at all. So,
thank you.
Wookie, you are amazing. Thank you for all you do for us here.
Thank you for coming over. It's been a blast.
Yeah. And with that, I think we're going to wrap it up for tonight. You guys have a safe night. Stay safe, stay blessed. Anything you want to say, Boulevard, before we leave?
Yeah, my birthday was 2 days ago, and I was terrified that this was going to turn into a shout-out for my belated birthday on stream, and I wasn't sure how I was going to handle that. So before you get a chance to do that, I'm going to say shout-out to Boulevard and nobody else. Thank you, Prodigy, for coming on through the interview. Hirsch, thank you for casting with me. Wookie, now I know what you look like. Thank you for that. That is going to do it for us, everybody. We will see you in the finals next week.
Have a good night.